doing this week, man?
I am super tired.
Yeah. Was work riding you hard?
Pause. Nothing's riding me hard. Nothing's riding me hard.
You know how I meant it.
um, yeah, work. So we got this thing because the IT team for the entire company is only 6 people. And then we have a BI analyst who makes the dashboards, and we have a project manager. So in all, they're under IT wing. So in all, it's probably about 10 of us, but only 4 of us deal with everything, like from the day-to-day operations, and then 2 of them are 2 of us are system admins. So they don't really deal with the front end. So essentially I'm level 1 through 3. And since we had to get rid of we didn't get rid of, that sounds bad, we had to let go of our intern earlier last month, I believe, earlier last month. He was the one watching the help desk because he can do level 1 stuff or whatever. So, and then if you need to escalate it, he'll escalate to us, which is level, like, we consider ourselves level 2 and 3. So yeah, we do everything from minor cybersecurity to all network issues we handle. Anything related to the network, we handle that. Anything related like AV issues, because both offices, we have 4 offices. We have office in Houston, Dallas, Austin, and San Antonio, and there's and they all have conference rooms and stuff like that, and
with audio
any AV issues, we got to deal with that. Yeah, so we do pretty much everything, like level 1 through 3, and we also do asset management. So, and everything of that nature. So that being said, we did this thing where we're like rotating on who's pretty much going to be level 1 for the week, and that person's in charge of the help desk. And this week is my week, and I don't like it. I was the first one to do it when we first started doing this rotation, and now it rotates every 4 weeks. So now I'm back on it this week, and
that sucks, dude.
Yeah, I'm not a big fan of it at all. So I have to deal with like all the low level tickets and stuff like that.
Is this a permanent situation?
Until we get approval for a level 1 person, yes. So we've been trying to fight for that, like just get like a level 1 person who like maybe get paid, like get like a 19-year-old or 20-year-old or something who's trying to get into IT, give them like a $15 an hour or something like that. That should be good enough. And they can do level 1 or whatever, either part-time or full-time or something like that. Yeah, until then, to the foreseeable future, this is permanent. And unfortunately, we are doing a fucking refresh as well. So, I mean, you already know how laptop refreshes go. So we're doing.
How many people are we talking though?
So I'm not too sure. This is a mid-level company. It's a private construction company, but it's mid-level. So, well, I consider them kind of high level the way a lot of other construction companies talk about us. Like if you go out to any construction company, you ask them who we are in Texas, everyone is trying to work for us. Apparently, we're like the premier, like the high level, construction company or whatever.
And
so
everybody, they can't afford a level 1 person. What are you talking
they
about?
can. They can.
No, they don't want to pay for it. Oh my god.
Yeah, they definitely can. Dude. Not to shit on the company or anything like that. It's just it is what it is. Like I know we got to go through budgets and everything like that, and even my highest manager who runs this is like, yeah, I really want to get y'all like a level 1, but we gotta approve it. We gotta prove that we need it and everything of that nature.
Bullshit, though, dude. Somebody in the hierarchy is making the decision that you guys have to do this bullshit. Basically, that's like what it comes down to. And it's so fucking. I cannot stand corporate bullshit.
Because the way it used to be before, like it was like a free for all. Like when tickets came in, we would check it, but it wasn't organized. So it would just be a free for all. Whoever pick up the ticket or whatever. But we wanted, all of us agreed that we needed more, structure to it. And then that's when when our intern was hired, because he was with us for about almost a year and a half, and everything of that nature. And yeah, when our intern was with us, we made that decision to do that because he also wanted to get more experience. And then once he left, all of us made a decision to do this as well. Even though I made a decision as well. This is kind of like my idea, to be honest with you. And I knew that it was needed, so I was like, whatever, I don't have to do it. Whatever the fuck, I'll do it. It's just certain days is okay, but other days is not okay. And this week has not been okay because I've had to do a lot of stuff as far as like refreshing the laptops and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So I've been imaging the laptops,
Mm-hmm.
and we're only doing like maybe 35 people split between this week and next week. So it's like 17 this week, and then it's going to be like another 17 next week, which is like 34 people. And we got them staggered by hour or half an hour and stuff like that. So the good thing about our refreshes is going to be super easy because, like I said, or not like I said, but the way we have our system set up is everything's backed into OneDrive. Like the moment you turn on your computer automatically goes into runs into VPNs, so you don't have to worry about logging anybody into the VPN or teaching them how to log into the VPN. Automatically cuts on with their single sign in. OneDrive is single sign in, so as soon as you log into Windows, your OneDrive is automatically activated, and it backs up everything from the cloud. It backs up everything to the cloud from the desktop all the way down to the tiniest folder inside your fucking C drive. The only blind spot is like the downloads folder, and that's intentional.
Yeah.
So if your computer breaks, we can easily spin you up a new computer. You sign in, and then everything pulls down, like your background, the position of where your icons are at, and everything. Like it's like you never lost your computer. So I like the way we have our system set up. So that's why the refresh is good. So I mean that's why the refresh will be fast. It only takes like 10 to 20 minutes to get people to swap out their computers, and that's it. So I'm not worried about that. It's just I have to do it, and then I also have to be in charge of the desk as well. And on top of that, I have to also manage like projects coming out and job sites spinning up and everything of that nature, because I have to chase around the project managers and the superintendents and everything like that, and I have to say like, hey, when's the trailer coming in? And they'll like, oh, because they will, if I don't chase around the superintendents and the project managers, they will literally call us, even though I may send the email like a week and a half ago, or whatever, asking about this information. They will literally call us and be like, hey, we're getting our trailers tomorrow. We're getting our guys out there tomorrow. I need internet, blah, blah, blah. And it's not, I mean, you should know, it's a process to get everything up, because I have to hire, hire third party people to see if I can get their cabling out there, to wire their trailers correctly, to put in phone data jacks and all this other stuff like that. And there's just a lot of stuff they need or whatever. And it's a process. So when I have to do that, and I have to make their rack, and I have to make sure that their network and their rack is right, which is easy now that we have the new system of Meraki. We've been working with them for about 2 years now, or a year and a half now, and it's really good. So it makes everything simple as far as like setting up a rack, getting all the IP addresses and everything, because they made it super, like, I don't want to like say cell phony, but it's like a UI, like it's like a really good GUI that they have, that Meraki has now.
It's a lot. It's so much easier to deal with.
Yeah. So yeah, that's easy and stuff like that. But yeah, like I said, the hardest part of that is just planning everything and spinning it up when they're ready to go. So I have to we have to do that because our IT team is like on the bounce back, I would say. Like when I was hired, I was the face of the new IT team, right? Because I was the first hire, or I wasn't the first hire. I was probably like the second hire. It was another guy in Austin who's still with us. He was hired first, so him and I are like the new face of the new IT team. It's like almost like restructuring a fucking football team that was fucking terrible, and now you're the new coach, and we got a new director of IT, a new manager. All of us are, with my entire team except for the two system admins, are hired within the last 2 years. So we're
Mm,
all brand new, or not brand new, but we're all new, and we had to kind of whip into shape the new reputation of the IT team, which we did. I think we did a phenomenal job in the last 2 years. Like now, people respect us. Won't we get the job done now. And I know that because people will call me because they know I'm dependable, or they'll call somebody else because they know they're dependable and everything like that. And they're like, yeah, man, IT, they do their job now. Whereas before, from what I've noticed or what I've been told, IT was terrible. Like there was no organization to it. The system, not the system admins, but the superintendents and the project managers would just do their own thing on projects and just go
mm,
rogue, order their own equipment, and it was just no structure. But now that we have a structure to it, um, some people have been resistant to it because they're used to doing their own thing. But I think it's good that we have a structure to everything now. Um,
yeah.
so yeah, like I said, I'm proud of us, but it's just some days like this, some weeks like this is just it's just real hard on me. So it's unfortunately it's one of those weeks where I'm just like I'm tired of it all, but
Mm,
it's like I'm pushing out to the weekend because
grinding.
I'd rather be outside like doing job sites. That's what I like to do. I don't
Yeah.
like to
Yeah.
stick around in the office all the time. But it is what it is.
Yeah, I get what you mean. I mean, dude, not having a level 1 team. God, that sucks. Like I couldn't even
Yeah.
imagine if my company did that to me and my team. Actually, they did at one point, or they tried to, I remember. Um they combined us with the level 1 team. We were level 2/3,
Hmm.
and they combined us with the level 1 team, and they made us take calls for a while. And God, we were like gonna revolt, dude. Like it did not go very well. Most of the team didn't even obey the order to do it. It was because we had other people. Unfortunately, unlike you guys, like you guys don't have anyone, so you literally have no choice in the matter.
Yeah.
We still had a level 1 team. They were just trying to integrate the two of us together, and those of us who weren't a part of the level 1 team were just like, dude, this is stupid. Like, you know. So I yeah, I feel you there, man. That's not, I don't know, doesn't seem great, personally. But
Yeah, and like I said, luckily we don't get calls. They just come into the ticket queue and then we handle it.
I
Like
see.
right
Okay, so
now,
it's like
we
a
only have
walk
like
up situation mostly.
yeah, like so they just put in their ticket. You can put in your ticket through the phone or whatever, or through the app or whatever, and they just put in a ticket, and then we'll either call them or just communicate through them through the ticket or whatever. And
Okay.
majority of my tickets are done within like 5 minutes.
So
And
you're
I,
like,
I
oh, so you're just like first level triage then. You're not taking calls in a queue necessarily.
no, no, no,
Okay, okay. Then that's a lot better then. Okay.
yeah, yeah,
Gotcha. Yeah, so I mean, yeah, work for me has been similarly stressful. But we got one of our new guys in this week, and we got another new guy starting on Monday, so we're getting there. Hopefully the pressure and everything starts to kind of um alleviate a bit for me. But it's yeah, it's been fun. I am trying, though, I will say, I'm kind of this experience has, I don't want to say transform me, but like force me again to make some changes in the way I do things.
hmm
Um, and I this is kind of reflecting this week. You'll notice the document how many games I've played this week. I'm just trying to take life a little bit more by the horns. I feel like, uh, I have a tendency and had a tendency for sure to dwell in moments and dwell in like feelings a little bit too much. And that would sometimes affect my ability to enjoy my off time, and I'm trying to stop doing that for sure, at work, at home, in my personal life, whatever. Because it's just like I just kind of broke. I'm tired of being this way, and I need to like be more confident in myself, I guess. And like I have a tendency to kind of have like imposter syndrome with myself, where I feel like I can't do anything right,
mm,
even though it's not fucking true. Like, I know it's not true, but it's just like it comes in and invades your head, And I know
yeah,
people out
yep,
there know, yeah. I think we both experienced that, and we know people who are like this too. Um, and it's just such a fucking frustrating mentality to be in, like stuck in. So I'm kind of trying to force myself out of it. And I actually started. I went to my first therapy session last week on Friday.
Oh, nice. Okay.
Yeah, and I just, Amanda kind of pushed me into it and was like, because I've been talking about doing it, but I just like I couldn't get myself to do it.
Yeah.
So she kind of helped me. Like she filled out the form for me and got me in the system and everything. And they called me and I set up an appointment last week, and it was great, dude. I just kind of vented for an hour and it was awesome. Like I felt amazing afterwards. you
Yeah.
know,
Yeah. Therapy
um,
is.
it's weird how well it
Oh my.
works.
Yeah. I can't stress enough to like, especially
Yeah.
guys, to like
Hmm.
just do it. Especially if you can't afford like the actual sit down, like the BetterHelp systems and everything like that. Like
Yeah.
those are really good alternatives to that shit. I'm sorry, I am in there to go
Oh,
on.
you're good. No, you're good, man. No, you're totally right. And yeah, it was good for me because I went to their office and sat down in a room with the therapist. It was just me and him, and
Hmm.
I like that setup a lot because it's like it separates me from the rest of my life at that exact moment. And I'm thinking about next time I go in, I'm literally gonna leave my phone in the car, maybe, because I want that to be like a safe space. I don't know of a better way to say it.
Yeah.
Where I'm like I'm protected from everything that's stressing me out. Um, and I think that first session actually weirdly kicked off everything I've been doing this week. Where I just said like last weekend, like 2 weeks ago, I downloaded 2 demos, and I'm going to talk about those demos today when we talk about what we've been playing. I downloaded them 2 weeks ago, and I did not play them 2 weeks ago. I played them this weekend, and I was so annoyed at myself that it took me a full fucking week to turn these games on and actually play them because they were literally like an hour, each. It's not even like that big of a deal, to play them.
Yeah.
But I just like I'm in this. I get in that headspace where I just can't get myself to enjoy shit. So then I end up just getting in this cycle where I'm like just watching YouTube videos or listening to a podcast or something, and that's all I do. I don't do anything else. And I'm like wasting time basically almost. So this past weekend, I just said, like on Saturday, I just said I was, Amanda was out. She went to a wedding for friends of hers from work, and
Hmm.
I was basically alone all day for the most part. So it was good. It was a good day for me. I was able to just like sit down and like focus on gaming. I fucking gamed longer than I have in forever. It's like I spent I don't know 6 8 hours probably playing games on Saturday, and it was great. I felt great about it. I played Armored Core, I played Ghost Runner 2, I played Star Ocean demo, I played Genshin. I played all this shit. And I felt like I made progress in all of those. Like I didn't feel like any of it was a waste of time. So yeah, I kind of did that, and then in work, I've been trying to push more, exude more confidence, I guess, in dealing with people and just dealing with issues in general. Not getting so caught up in what's happening or how we got here. I'm rather more just focus on fixing issues and getting us through things. And I'm feeling like it's working pretty well for me right now. So I don't know. I'm actually feeling really good right now.
No,
And it's yeah,
I'm happy for you. Yeah.
yeah,
Keep going.
yeah. It's the first time in a while too that I've really like felt like that. So um I yeah, so I don't know. I mean, we can get into the show proper here, but I feel like I'm having a good week. So hopefully things turn around for you, man. At your work too. Hope it doesn't make a lot of sense to not have a level 1 person in an IT support team.
Yeah, I can't. I understand it because, to be honest with you, like I said, I can't. Even my wife said the same thing, and I'm when I was doing it, I can't really justify a full timer, right? Like if it was a
Yeah,
part timer, then yeah. But the thing is, like a lot of people don't work part time anymore because prices of everything are just so crazy. Um, I can't really justify a full timer, but like even if we were to get like a high schooler, because we do have high schoolers come in, right? And
hmm
they do like some kind of little internship or whatever. I don't know what it is. And my thing is like if we can get a high schooler that's like really interested in like IT to do that, like I think that would be like really cool for them. It'd just be a matter of like, I guess I don't know the law behind background checks behind minors and all the other stuff like that. So that would be a whole legal thing, I think. But like, yeah, that would be cool. As I think it would be a cool experience for a high schooler. Be like, all
Mhm.
right, this is what the first level of IT is, and on top of that, you already did it in high school, so you don't have to do it while you're in college or
Yeah.
and when you get out of college. But my last point, I did want to touch on one thing that you said. Um, that happened to me recently as well. Because I actually stopped going to therapy, but uh I had this issue too where like I just couldn't get over the hump, and the hump was uh me going back to get more certifications in education. And
Yeah.
so I've been trying to do it on my own for the last 6 or 7 months, or for the
Yeah.
last year actually. I've downloaded Udemy, and I got all the information I need to do what I need to do to get like 2 or 3 certifications, right? And it just was not happening.
Yeah.
And I discovered that I am not the type of person that can do stuff, which is really hard to admit. And I feel really weak, but I guess it's not a weakness. Um, as my wife explained, it's just the way you learn. I need to be in a controlled environment where I'm held accountable for like my actions, right? Like if I'm in like a study by myself environment, it's just like, all right, I'm probably not going to do it
I'm
right.
totally with you, dude. Yep. Yep.
So it's like, so like this past week, like I've signed up to with because I live in Dallas, obviously. So I actually went to the community college, and I signed up with I signed up for a student ID and everything. So I'm on on their thing as a student. And I have to meet with my counselor like in
Mhm.
about 2 or 3 weeks, because like obviously the season or the semester already started, so I got to prepare for next semester. But yeah, I'm going back to class, and for me, the class is only like $600 or $700, so it's like cool because it's a community college, and I can get my cert right after that class. Right after I take a couple of classes, and I can get all that within one semester. But yeah, the reason I say that is because you said your wife helps you do the sign in process and everything, and kind of gave you that extra step. And my wife did the same thing for me as far as the school. She gave me a suggestion: just go to class, just go to a school. There's nothing wrong with that. And I will
Yeah.
help you throughout the whole process of like, going back to school and trying to get your student ID and everything like that. So she helped me
Mhm.
through the process, and yeah. And I'm actually excited about, next month when I'm probably going to be talking to the counselor, and then uh in a couple of months going back to school. Um yeah, because I'm just excited to get back into class and learn some stuff.
Yep.
It's not stuff I already know, but I just want to get certified in. Like I want to get my CCNA
Yep.
uh and go
Networking
for
stuff, right?
cybersecurity maybe, and everything like that. So yeah, so it'll be super exciting.
Yeah, that's awesome, dude. No, that's great. This is where having a partner in life is so helpful, you know.
Yeah.
Dude, it's like I can't express that enough. Having somebody who's like always in your corner no matter what is such a fucking god. If I didn't have Amanda, I would be like I don't know. I wouldn't do anything. Like I don't even know if I'd be doing this podcast, you know? Like
Hmm.
that's how helpful she is. As much like we've been doing this for almost 5 years, dude, which fucking insane to think about. But and this is like my favorite thing that I do in the week basically at this point. But like I don't know, she helps me contextualize what's going on in my life and the stress I'm feeling and all that, and it's like it frees me up to do this kind of stuff, you know?
Yeah.
And it's just so helpful. And then in situations where you're just not mentally able to do something, they can't do the whole thing for you, but they can get you started, you know? And that's so helpful because sometimes that's my biggest problem. And I think this is why I have so many issues playing games sometimes is just booting the game up is a hurdle for me. Literally pressing the X button on the
Yeah.
console and starting the game is a hurdle because in my head, I'm like stressing myself out about it. I'm like, okay, once I turn the game on, well, then I got to get into it, like get my head into it. And I'm making that a process, even though it's like you're playing fucking video games, bro. It's not that hard, You're making it more than it is. Um, so I'm trying to get out of that, stop doing this shit to myself. And I do it at work too. It happens to me at work as well. And I get worked up about things, and I kind of like make situations bigger than they are in my head, you know? Like just talking to people on the phone, I get like really fucking anxious sometimes, and I'm like, dude, fucking like stop. You know, like you're good at what you do, you know how to talk to people about this shit, just fucking do it, you know? It's like
Yeah.
stop, you know? So I've been doing a lot better about that this week. Like we've been doing this payment terminal rollout for new payment terminals. I think I mentioned this a week or two ago. And we started the rollout this week, like the mass rollout to all the stores. And I was doing the stores yesterday, and we decided to kind of do a briefing with our technicians, the third party technicians, before they start doing the installs. And you know, I was the one doing that talking for that. And we started doing that on Sunday, and I was just not like I wasn't fully there. I wasn't commanding their presence. Like my presence wasn't commanding enough to kind of demand their full attention. And
Mm-hmm.
yesterday, it was like no nonsense, bro. I was like fucking, I was like, you know, I was kind of doing the booming voice, you know, making sure I was like projecting myself, like through the fucking phone, you know, and it fucking worked. All 7 technicians they listened to directions. We really didn't have any fuck ups, and I feel like actually made an impact. And that's literally just me changing the way I approach the conversation, you know? And it's like,
Mm-hmm.
that's all I did. I didn't do anything else differently, you know? And we as a group, like as a team, didn't do anything differently really. That one thing though, like it made a world of difference. You know, it was a much smoother night than we've had otherwise. So I'm just like, I don't know. I had to prove it to myself, I guess, and I did. And it's like I just get annoyed at how much I struggle with this. It's so much in your head, dude, you know? And
Yeah.
like I know you know this. It's just like so that's why I'm gonna keep going to the therapy. I have another session next week, and I'm actually really excited about it. And yeah, it's been very positive so far. So
Great.
cool. Well, yeah, we're we're fucking 27 minutes in. Hi everybody. Welcome to the Player's Take. This is episode 240. I'm your host, Justin DeSimone, joined by my co-host, Montrell Rice. And this is our weekly show where we talk about video games, video game news, and other topics pertaining to video games. And sometimes, you know, our personal shit and where we are in life. As well. But we post at 6 a.m. Central Time on Fridays on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, and your favorite podcast app of choice. And maybe not Google Podcasts soon. I've heard that's maybe going away next year.
I
And then
it. I can see
it. Yeah, if you'd like to send us questions, you can do so on Twitter at The Player's Take, or you can send us an email to theplayerstake01@gmail.com. All right, Macho, enough of our shit. Let's get into the games. You want to start with what you've been playing this week?
Yeah, so I was playing Apex this week, and I have to say, I know what the issue is with Apex.
Oh yeah,
yeah, y'all not gonna like it though. It's not a solution for us. For our friend group, it's not a solution at all. It's not viable at all for them. We should just switch to console. Console lobbies are less stressful, bro. Like I played solo yesterday and won 4 games in a row, and I carried my team each time.
Yeah,
that's how easy the console lobbies are in ranked. It's actually so less stressful that I couldn't believe I was like tearing down. People were in the comms, like they normally don't talk, but some people were asking me like, "Yo, are you using the Cronus?" And I'm like, "Nah, bro. I'm just I'm used to playing with like my movement was so crazy to some people that they thought I was legitimately hacking. But it's because I'm so used to playing with PC people."
That's interesting. I mean, I might be willing to try it with you, dude. I'm not a hardhead about the fucking PC shit like the rest of our friend group. So I might be down to try it personally, and maybe that'll reinvigorate the passion for Apex.
Yeah, I honestly think it's just the PC lobbies, man. They're way too sweaty, like way too sweaty. I was watching even I didn't want to go back and forth with Brad and Jet in the chat yesterday or day before yesterday when I mentioned Timmy being in gold lobbies and barely getting out of gold lobbies, and he was like, well, we're not gold, and they're playing with Preds, and that's why the MMR is matching them up. That's why his stuff is so bad. I'm like, yeah, of course we're not Preds. We've never been Preds. But the problem is we are playing with Preds in silver lobbies. We're playing with Master and Diamond players in silver lobbies. So either we're too good or something's going on with the MMR, to where like we're constantly sweating each game. And yesterday, I kind of proved. I know it's anecdotal, but I kind of proved my point because I went into the console lobbies, and was just wrecking shop. Like it wasn't even. It was a cakewalk for me, and I haven't played the game in like 3 or 4 days, so I was really rusty. But it was like, I'm like, just imagine if I was playing it like I used to play it every day, and I just went to a console lobby. Like I probably would have won like 400 or 500, not 500 games, like 10 games straight yesterday or something like that, or probably already couldn't have been diamond or something like that. It's so crazy how easy console lobbies is. Not to shit on console players, but they're not cheating as much as PC players. They're not using all this super tech. Um,
Yeah.
I discovered this with Cyberpunk. I was setting up something with my Steam where you can set up control like configs for your controller in the Steam files. And like this is what these players are doing. When they're playing controller, they're setting up configs in their Steam file to where you can jump and strafe at the same time and all this other crazy shit with one button in Steam controllers. So it's like when we're playing against console or PC players, they're doing all this crazy movement tech because they have that built into their Steam controller. So it's not even like a mouse and keyboard situation. It is a mouse and keyboard situation because people are doing even more crazy tech with mouse and keyboard.
That's so
So
annoying,
it's like,
dude. I'm sorry. Like,
yeah.
this is an issue with PC that I think nobody cares about. But I do this is why PC isn't popular. Like
Yeah.
exactly what you're talking about. Because to me, what you are saying, what people are doing in Steam, is an unfair advantage. And yeah, I know PC players are gonna just say, "Oh, good, good. Oh, learn that." No, fuck you, dude. Like, no, like people don't want to do that shit. I would guarantee you, like 90 to 95% of gamers don't give a shit about that stuff. You know, like I'm thinking about us. I didn't even know you could do that shit until you just said it just now. And like, we're not bad. I'm not a bad player. Like, but it's like I don't want to deal with that shit. I don't care. I just want to fucking play the game as it's presented, dude. Is that
Yeah.
hard?
Yeah. Exactly. So even mouse and keyboard players use Steam configs, or they may use, so the mouse wheel. What a lot of people do for tap strafing is they put their jump on their mouse wheel, and
Yeah,
their
and then
crouch or
scroll.
whatever, and then
Yeah, scroll the
scroll. So
wheel.
that's why
Yeah.
that's how you can jump and tap strafe really quickly and stuff like that, or do the neo strafing, which a lot of people are doing, which looks like you're jumping and crouching, so you're doing tiny little jumps and you're moving at the same time around the map. So you can do crazy tech movement tech like that or whatever. Um, like if you just look up any movement video on Apex, like movement compilation videos or whatever, there are people doing crazy stuff, and this is not even with Steam controllers. This
Yeah.
or controller on configs. This is just with mouse and keyboard.
Yeah.
Like they're doing crazy stuff because they're able to manipulate in their sensitivity to a way that they can do that stuff. Um, and then like yeah, people will wonder why Apex is dying, or they'll wonder why Call of Duty on PC is dying, or they'll wonder why all this stuff is dying, and they will howl into the sky that PC is the ultimate gaming device. I feel like it is, but only for the ultimate sweater. Like if you are just a sweat, yes, PC is the ultimate gaming device for you. I love my PC. I love building PCs. I love playing PC gaming. I love it. I love it playing on MMOs, and I love all this shit about PC. I love that I can play a lot of different games on my PC, especially with Xbox Game Pass. I love all this shit. I love that I can, unlock frames and everything like that. I'm not bound by that. I can play with any controller and all this other shit like that. Love it. But it gets to a point where I think Apex is that point, or that proof. Even Fortnite is
Yeah.
where it's just not viable for people. Like if you get put in the PC lobby, this Apex is not is not a noob friendly game. Like if
Not
you're
at
just
all.
brand new at the game, you're gonna get fucking shitted on. You're gonna get put in bot lobbies first, and then they're gonna put you in the real lobbies, in the real PC lobbies, and you're gonna get shitted on. And for us to get as many wins as we do as 30-year-olds casually gaming, like if we were to go balls to the wall sweat, we would be better than 90% of these kids. I wholeheartedly believe that. And that's what I was trying to put in the chat too. Because I feel like Brad was kind of like demeaning us. And I'm like, bro, no, we're actually good at this game. Remember, we're 30-year-old with wives and kids, and we're shitting on some of these fucking 25-year-olds,
Yeah.
19-year-old kids who are playing this game. If we
The
had
people use
dedication,
movement tech, bro. Like, yeah.
yeah, exactly. And we're using like bare minimum movement tech, and we're still shitting on a lot of these kids. So it's like, yeah, we complain about it, and a lot of them are hacking. So yeah, we complained about it, but it just proves how better we are. Now, if we were to move to console, I feel like we would be in fucking masters right now. Like no joke. That's how much confidence I have in our friend group as far as like gaming. But I know our friend group won't migrate out of PC because that's where they were born at, or that's where we're at. And I understand it. Because I was reluctant from going to console to PC, but I'm always been a hybrid gamer where I can go almost to any console or any kind of platform and play. So I really don't mind it. But yeah, like uh, that's my Apex experience, and I recommend people, if you are having issues with Apex and PC, just go to the console side. It's way more chill. It's way less frantic. You still might run into some Chronos people who are like kind of hacking it out with the Chronos stuff, but like even then, that comes down to pure skill. Like if you can maneuver them, then you win the game. It's not like an
Yeah.
aimbot thing, you know. So
Yeah.
that's my Apex experience.
Yeah. What you're describing though with the Steam, stuff and all these like, macros and shit that people use, like I don't know. I don't want to call macros exploits, but kind of. you know, you're putting multiple functions on a single button. I think you're on the borderline of cheating to me.
Yeah, it's still heavily debated in the Apex community if it's cheating. The problem is it's not third party, it's first party because it's through Steam.
Yeah.
So you can't.
Yeah, but
It's
still
not like
Steam's not the game.
yeah.
That's
So
still an external thing.
yeah, but it's like how would Respawn block that? You know that would I I
I'm
don't
sure
know.
there's a way to do it. They could work with Valve.
They probably could, yeah. But I don't know.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and I don't do that level of. I appreciate the idea of trying to find an edge, any edge you can
yeah,
find. But
yeah,
this is where my problem lies is and we've talked about Twitch streamers kind of causing this mentality out there is we're not playing competitively. We're not playing for money. We're not in a tournament. We're literally just coming home from work, trying to blow off some steam and fucking win some Apex games. That's all we're trying to do. And I think a majority of the player base is the same way. Even a lot of these people that are sweating and doing this stuff, but they're ruining the game for everyone else, And
yeah.
I'm sure their mentality is join us, but dude, again, I don't want to join you. I don't want to learn how to do
Yeah,
that shit. I want to play the
exactly.
game within the bounds of the game, wall jumping and the fucking tap strafing, all this shit. I don't care. I don't want to learn that stuff, dude. It's like I just want to play a fucking shooter, man, and straight up. And it's like the game has plenty of movement tech within it without that shit.
Yeah, I
And
agree.
frankly, I don't think as much as it has that level of depth, I don't think it's doing the game a favor anymore. I think it's hurting the game now, and we're seeing it with player numbers and stuff in the game, and people getting fed up, and it's just Apex is kind of waxing and waning, and sometimes it's coming back up and going back down, but it's not consistently high anymore. And I think this is part of the reason. I think a lot of people are just getting scared off by these kind of players.
Yeah, and it's kind of happening in like every community, like this movement tech based shit that people want. And when they want movement tech, they want exploits. That's what they mean by movement tech. Like it's not true movement, like it's not wall running that's built into the
Absolutely.
game or anything like that. It's like exploits. They want jump canceling and all this other stuff like that. Those are like, as much as I love jump canceling and type in like Devil May Cry, it's clearly a game exploit. Like, and they just left it in there.
Oh yeah.
But it's a game exploit.
Bro, Genshin has this shit. Can you believe that?
Yeah, I can believe
Like,
it because
one of
it's
my
almost
favorite
like a
characters
staple.
that I play is Hu Tao. And you want to know what the meta for her is? Like, the way you're supposed to play her. And if you don't play her this way, people will yell at you. Is you activate her skill, which makes all her attacks fire element. And that's like why the character's powerful. But you charge attack. When her charge attack is to just go straight forward in a line, like basically like a drill, essentially. So what you do is you do the charge attack. The second you see the enemy damage number, you're supposed to jump cancel and then turn around and do it again in the other direction. That's the way you're supposed to play the character, and that is bullshit. It is such a terrible way to play the game. It's not fun at all. It's not even really, you're like, it's within the realm of the game's mechanics, but it is so fucking sweaty in a game that is hyper casual. Like, there is nothing hard in Genshin Impact. And it's like, this is the kind of shit I'm talking about, though. It's in every community. Even in Genshin, it's in the fucking community. This just like sweaty, this is the optimal way to play. If you're not playing this way, you're playing the game wrong. Like, fuck you, man. Like who gives a shit if I'm doing a DPS a half second slower than you? Like, what the fuck, dude? Like, where does this shit come from? Why does everything have to be optimized? Like,
it started with WoW. I'm sorry, man.
It did. It absolutely did. That's where it started. Elitist jerks. That website can go fuck itself. I would blink it out of existence if I could, because it probably would have happened with something else if it wasn't that.
Yeah,
but
you're right.
It was that. Like, if you want to pinpoint a thing that started it, it was those motherfuckers with their fucking spreadsheets telling you this is the optimal talent build. This is the exact gear you should be wearing. This is your fucking rotation down to the millisecond. Like, if you're not doing this, you're playing unoptimally, and it's like,
it
oh
was
my God,
okay.
we're paying $15 to play a video game. Like, why are we so fucking invested in it like this?
You know what? It was okay. When it was like condensed. It was condensed to like a couple of people within the community, right? That played like that. Like you said, I tweeted out the pandemic was probably COVID was probably the worst thing that happened to the world. Not only like for like vaccines and like vaccination scares and the sickness going around, all that bullshit like that, right? Now, not the political shit, but like for gaming, it literally ruined and changed the way we game. There are so many people that decided they wanted to become sweaty overnight because of COVID. They saw how much money streamers were making, and then they wanted to be those streamers. And they got the extra money that the government gave, which I feel like was needed to keep the economy afloat. But a lot of people use that to buy PCs and everything like that, and all this other stuff like that. And they put it towards their PC rig and all this other stuff. And the gaming in general, like you said, just became super fucking sweaty. That's why we had like some of our highest numbers. If you go back to our episodes during that time, NPD was out of control. They were really in the go, baby. Because people were just buying stuff.
Yeah. The best year for the industry ever, I think, was 2020.
Yeah. It kind of, I don't want to say got the worst people. It brought out the worst of people because they were at home all day just playing video games. And I loved it, but it did bring out the sweatiness in people because they wanted to get that extra money and everything like that. And now, unfortunately, 3 years later, we still have that mentality in gaming. And I don't think it's going to go anywhere. I think it's starting to die down now, and that's why you're starting to see people say like, "Oh, gaming's boring" and everything like that, because a lot of those people are starting to get filtered out now. But it's still like a culture that I think that culture is never going to go away now. Like, I think that's permanent now in gaming. Like, it's a permanent thorn in our side that we have to deal with.
Oh yeah, well, streamers found too much success with it, catering to the sweaty side of things, and it's just it's so frustrating, man. Because that is the big reason I don't want to play Apex. Like, they're getting mad at me because I don't want to play, or Brad in particular is getting mad at me, and it's like, dude, like, why am I gonna go waste hours doing this with you guys and get offline and I'm mad, you know?
Yeah.
It's not, I want to have fun, you know, and we can lie to ourselves all we want. Yeah, we are pretty good at the game, but we're also not playing it competitively though. We're not trying to climb. And we're not all serious about that in the way that we would need to be for
Mm-hmm.
me to like want to sweat like that, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
And because if we're gonna do that, then we should all be playing meta characters. Like, what are we doing? You know, we're just playing whatever fucking like Jet played Loba for like 3 years, you know, and it's like she was never meta in that entire time frame. You know, so if that's what we're gonna do, sure, but that's not what we do. And if we're gonna approach the game casually, then I want it to feel casual, you know, and that's exactly why we stopped playing League too, for the same reason. We're playing it casually, but the game's not casual, you know, and we're getting
Yeah.
fucking wrecked every game, and everybody's playing meta. We're getting counterpicked and fucking norms, and like this people are like picking items to counterpick us and shit, and it's just like, God, dude, like, oh my god, like,
And you know what's funny about League? I didn't even know. I think the system was activated way before they announced it.
yeah,
But League is particularly funny. They just activated a system to where people, if you're being toxic and ranked, then you have to go through like a kind of I forgot what they call it, but you have to play a
like a
certain
boot
number of
camp or
like
something.
yeah, certain you have to play a certain number of like norms or ARAM or something like that being non-toxic to get back into the rank queue. So they just implemented that. But I
Wow.
think
Okay.
that has already been I want to say, to be honest with you,
Mhm.
that kind of explains the games that we were having. I feel like
Yeah.
a lot of those players were secretly like knocked out of rank queue and they were in our games that we were playing in norms, and that's why it
Mm.
was so fucking sweaty. And
Yeah.
now people are saying now my norms games are sweaty with these sweaty fucks who need to be playing in ranked. League right now is I'm actually glad we all stopped playing when we stopped playing, because it's
Yeah.
in a really bad spot right now. They are experiencing the biggest hacker queue that they have ever had in the entire of League. They say a lot of people are saying like high elo is nothing but like hackers at this point with people
Mhm.
scripting and everything like that.
Yeah.
And I mean, we even experienced it. So it's like I don't know what's going on. Like I've never experienced hacking in gaming like this to this degree. And it's very fucking it needs not enough people in the higher like I was say cosplay, but I mean podcast are talking about it. And it's like I know people are experiencing this, but the problem is a lot of those people in these podcasts, they don't play like competitively, or they don't play hardcore. They play like, The Last of Us, and ooh, I love The Last of Us or whatever. Like they play these type of games. And don't get me wrong, I love those type of games too, but
Yeah.
they don't play like hardcore games like we play it, right? And if they do, it's a small niche podcast that no one's probably listening to like ours. I mean, people are listening to it. No offense to us, but it's just like it's a small niche podcast. But it needs to be addressed. It just needs to be addressed. Because not everybody wants to be sweaty at all. But yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, and I mean, companies can do something about this too. By the way,
It's
not
a business though,
it's
man.
not just a
They don't want to.
yeah, but I think I don't think they're looking at the long game here, dude. You know, and it's weird to say.
I mean,
It's interesting to feel to be in a position where I'm advocating for casual gaming, I guess, because I do
yeah,
consider myself a hardcore gamer, but
exactly. Me too.
dude, there's a place for competitiveness in anything, you know, and I think in gaming these things have gotten muddled to such a degree that there is no place for the casual in a lot of these multiplayer games right now, and that is going to kill all of these games in the long run. You know, like I think all of them are going to get killed by this, and I think League is recognizing that a little bit with the changes to mythic items and shit. um but Apex does not seem to care, and that game is not going to be long for this world if they don't make changes. I feel like, you know.
Well, there's one game, and you're gonna give me shit for this. There's one game out there that is doing everything right, in my opinion.
Oh yeah.
It's Dota. They
Yeah,
have
damn right. You goddamn right.
they have like a system in place where you have like some kind of social score to where if
Mhm.
you get below a social score, you're going to be playing with other people within that social score.
Yeah,
So if you're
they
toxic,
segregate them. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. So if you're toxic, you're playing with other toxic gamers. And if you
Yep.
get really bad, you're getting kicked off the platform. And I
Yep.
love that. And League needs to implement something like that. Apex needs to implement something like that. All these games need to implement something like that to where it's just better for the
Yeah.
for the community. I don't
Just
know.
join me, man. Why don't you play Dota with me? Come on. It's look, I mean, I love Dota. I'm a little bit of a fanboy for it, you know, as much as I don't play it that much anymore. It's just like they've always approached things in a way I just feel like works, you know?
Mhm.
And I've never felt like there's problems with the core systems of the game, you know, and the way the community is toxic. There's toxicity in the community
Oh
for
yeah,
sure, but it's they
100%.
don't ignore it though. Remember that ban wave they did like last year where they banned like 200,000 accounts or some fucking crazy number?
Yeah.
And it's like they don't give a fuck. Like they're like, get out of our fucking game, dude. Like, fuck you guys. Like this, we're not tolerating this bullshit. And other Apex does like a 5,000 account ban wave, and everybody's like, oh my god, they're doing it. They're figuring it out, guys. It's like, no, like they're not figuring shit out. They're just placating us. Like they're fucking. It's a fucking joke. It is a joke. So maybe console Apex is where I need to go, and I don't know. Maybe I'll download it and we can try it out. I'm just gonna suck dick because I've never really played Apex with a
Well,
controller. So
yeah, I tried to wait until like the progression comes out because you can migrate it all to one account or whatever. At least that's the rumor that's going on, and they said it's supposed to come out by season 19. So I was gonna actually migrate everything over to
God,
PC, but I'm not
why
doing
did
that
it?
shit.
Why did it
I'm I
take that long? Yeah, do the opposite. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
I think everybody should do it. I mean, Jet has a PS5 and everything. I think we all should just go on console. And even if Brad has a PS4, he can still play Apex with us. Um, because I can't I can't do the PC. After last night, bro, I don't think I could do the PC lobbies anymore because I was just like, I'm having too much fun with this game. And I
Yeah.
was yelling and cussing it too, but I was still having fun. I'm like, I had fun playing by myself, playing solo Apex. That's insane.
With
So
randos, right?
with randos, yeah,
Yeah, that's crazy.
yeah. So I don't know. That is my Apex talk or my Apex soapbox. So the next game I've been playing is Cyberpunk. Um,
Mm.
I haven't really talked about this game because I've been playing it a lot. I think I'm 26 hours in now. I started playing it last week when the patch came out, and I have to say it fixed a lot of stuff. With me for me in general, you start to feel your power spikes early. Um, it has a good balance and flow. That was my main issue with obviously, besides the glitches and all that bullshit like that. Um, my main issue was the combat and how
Hmm.
it it just didn't feel like I was getting powerful. It was a lot of percentages and stats and stuff like that. Um, and then you unlock powers later and everything of that nature. And everyone claims like, hey, this has been in here. This right here, what you're experiencing, it's been in the game. And it's like, if it was, they
Oh
wouldn't
my
have overhauled the
god. I
like
I fucking hate the Defense Force, bro, when they come out. Whatever it is, whatever it's for. I just they're so that voice you did is exactly what I envisioned, you know. That's just oh my god.
so and my thing is they wouldn't have done the overhaul if it wasn't there. If they felt like it was there, right? So they did the overhaul, and the overhaul is a lot better in my opinion. I can do builds, bro. I'm like double jumping, air dashing, throwing knives, slowing down
Nice.
time, using katanas to block bullets and shit like
Yeah.
that, and hacking people all at the
Hmm.
same time. It's like it's what I envisioned the game to be when it first came out. Like this is what I envisioned. And I'm like, now, in my opinion, this game has nowhere to go but up, in my opinion, as far as combat and more future updates and everything of that nature to the game and everything. The story is actually really good, in my opinion. It's pretty
Hmm.
decent.
Yeah.
It's not Mass Effect level, in my opinion, but it's really good. It's almost like it's Cyberpunk meets Fight Club as far as like I want to take down the corporations and shit like that, or you can choose not to take down corporations. I think Johnny Silverhand. I understand why people like him because I think Keanu Reeves does a really good job as Johnny Silverhand.
Mm-hmm.
And even like the first act of the game is really good. I didn't like it when I first played it because a lot of stuff was taking me out of the first act. But now I went back and played it and I like it. Something happens in the first act and I felt it this time. Like I felt where they were going with it and I understood it. Whereas last time when I played it, I didn't really care, and I was just like, I just don't fucking care, like whatever. So if you do have this game, especially if you have it on PC, I recommend playing it on PC. I still play with the controller on PC, but I feel like if you want to put mods or anything like that, you can still do that. But I haven't modded the game at all. But I am playing it on PC, and yeah, if you're, I recommend it. Now it's definitely worth it. They had it on sale for Steam for like $35 or $30. It may have went back up now. But yeah, I mean, I really don't have anything bad to say about the game. I don't like the revisionist history that's going on right now with the game. Because now people are like, see, we told you guys it was great. Don't gaslight me. Like
Montrell played that shit, okay? You can gaslight me. I didn't play it, but Montrell fucking played it. Shut up.
I played it, and I knew I played it right, and because I was like, I know I had like 10 hours in this game, and my old pirated save was in the original, like the legit copy of the game, and I was like, oh shit, this is my old save. And I played it and everything like that. And I was like, oh yeah, this is like my original save or whatever. Yeah, and then I started the game all over again. And once I did that, and yeah, the powers make sense, the skill trees make sense, the way you spec your character makes sense. Everything now makes sense, and I'm glad. Like they needed this overhaul, really badly, and it legit, in my opinion, like I said on Twitter, it saved the game for me. Like now I can't shit on the game. The only time I'm gonna shit on the game is when people are being revisionist about the game. I think it's a great game. I understood what they see in it now as far as story wise, gameplay wise. I will defend it till I die. I will defend that game was fucking ass. Like combat was so bad. I don't care I don't care what you say, DJ. I don't care what nobody says. It's like Kingdom Hearts 3 before the fucking patch. Like we can act like that game was good before that. The combat in Kingdom Hearts 3 was good before that fucking patch they did. We can act like it, but
or I'm gonna bring up another game, Final Fantasy 15.
Yes. You know what? That game's still not good. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I know, probably, but we can pretend it was good. Though the people that like it though are like, give it another try, give it another chance. Like we can pretend that the original release of the game didn't exist, but it did.
It did,
and I beat that game. So don't gaslight me on that one. I remember.
You gotta play the Royal Edition, bro. It's free.
Fuck that. I would rather play every other Final Fantasy.
I don't know, man. It's just it's happening so much in games now, like revisionist history, and I hate it because like bro, people like, I think Kingdom Hearts 3 is a great example of this. People are still playing in Kingdom Hearts 3 and discovering new tech and everything like that, because I think it is actually a legitimate game. Like it's a really good game now as far as combat. Story wise, that ain't shit gonna change that trash ass story, y'all. I'm sorry. But combat wise, it's a really good Kingdom Hearts game. It's up there, in my opinion, with Kingdom Hearts 2 Final Remix or Final Mix. But even Final Mix, man, it just has that, I don't know, it's probably nostalgia, but it has that mwah for me. It just is there. But yeah, no, Kingdom Hearts 3 combat is really good with the keyblade changes and everything of that nature. But so if you were playing it now, if you played it first time now, you're like, whoa, this game is really fucking good. But I played it when the game first came out, and the changes that I complained about, they changed. Like the changes that we complained about, the community complained about, they change. And no one will ever take that shit away from me. And that's so scary, though, that the changes that I advocated for will be used against me in the court of law in the future, or in the court of public opinion against me, because people will have a revisionist history and say, Montrell, you said this game was trash. This game is probably the best game I ever fucking played.
Well, this is why the what was it, the CEO of CD Projekt came out and said what he said a few weeks ago, trying to spin the narrative that, it was never as bad as everybody said. It just was cool to shit on the game, or whatever he was saying.
I can't believe people just don't remember.
And people gobble that up. The Defense Force was ready, man. They were ready. They took the message and they're executing the defense plan.
Justin, the game was legit boring. I saw, you know what was crazy? And I actually went back and listened to this episode. I said this game has so much potential. Like, the combat potential is there. Mm-hmm. They're just holding it back. And I don't know why they're holding it back. Like, it made no sense to me that I have to get like level 25 or something to get the full combat potential of this game, right?
Yeah.
I'm playing this game now on hard mode, and it's like I got the full potential of the combat at level fucking like 5 or 10. And I'm like, this game, I see where they're going with this game now. I get it. It clicked with me. I just, coming from The Witcher 3, where I feel like that game didn't hold back his combat potential.
Yeah.
Even though it started out slow, but it's still, you saw the potential with the 5 powers that you had. Mm-hmm. And to this game, I just don't know where they were going with it. Like, I don't know.
Yeah.
And I'm really glad they leaned into the action part of the action RPG, because that's what was lacking, in my opinion. So I would say with Full Rain, like, I'm not apologizing about what I said earlier, but I will say, like, my hate for Cyberpunk has waned. I think it's a good game now. And I recommend people playing it. Like, people play it now, so that is for it. I'm still not going back on Battlefield 2042 though. That game is complete shit. I don't give a fuck what nobody says. It's ass. Like, I'm sorry, y'all. Sorry, Battlefield community. That shit's ass. Like, that shit. The patches cannot fix that game. The operators, they need to completely gut that game just toss it in trash, bro. Yeah. Like, it's done. It's done for me. So yeah, that's it for me.
Well, okay, let me get into what I've been playing. Montrell, are you proud of me? I played games this week. Yay! I did it, guys. I have 6 games on my list. That's crazy. That's the most I feel like I've probably fucking ever had on this show.
Yeah.
So I'll start with Honkai. Not much to say there. Just continue to play it. Genshin played this some more. New patch came out this week. Another story update. I have not gotten into said story update, but I might this weekend a little bit. I'm looking forward to that, actually, after 4.0's story stuff. And then I got back into Armored Core 6. So I started playing this over the weekend again, and I did my grind. I grinded some money, got some parts. I have a little bit of a nest egg now in case I run into a brick wall, so I can buy some parts for specific missions. And I got through chapter 2. I finished. So, dude, okay, we talked about this a little bit on Saturday, Friday. I don't remember when I got on Discord, but so I did the last mission in chapter 2, and this is one of the more infamous bosses, the sea spider or whatever. And dude, I get to this point in the mission, and I fight the thing once, and it kills me. I think I got it to maybe like a 3rd HP or something like that. And then I fight it again, and I beat it. I beat it on my 2nd attempt. I'm like, okay. So I start looking up, like, how bad were the nerfs, with the boss. And supposedly they only nerfed its damage mitigation, coming from the player. It didn't actually nerf any of its skills or damage that it did, besides the missile nerfs that you were talking about. So it was a little jarring for me. It's hard. I can't gauge whether this is a situation where, like, I beat it on the 2nd attempt because of the nerfs, or is this just a boss that I figured out pretty quickly. I did say when I was, talking about Balteus a few weeks ago, I'm the type of player with these games, if I don't beat the boss in the first 2 or 3 attempts, I kind of get stuck on it for a bit. It may have been that situation. I just, like, jived quickly with it and figured it out. But yeah, it was funny to like, because this was you were hyping this one up a little bit, and then I've seen some chatter online about this particular boss, and it's like second attempt. I was like, okay, I moved on, moved on to it. I will say though, chapter 3 is where things start to get interesting for this game for sure. Is there's another difficulty kind of step up, I will say, that I'm kind of hitting now, where I'm like, I don't know, 6 missions into chapter 3,
Mhm.
and the missions are starting to get, even the ones that don't have a boss particularly at the end necessarily, they're long enough and don't give you a resupply point, and they have diverse enough enemies where your build is difficult to make so that it can tackle every single thing in the mission, necessarily. And there's no checkpoint either. So I've run into a couple of those where I kind of got frustrated and just was like, I put the game down for a bit. I needed to like sit back because I need to figure out, like, do I need to change my build? What do I need to do? I just didn't want to put the mental energy into it. But I'm still enjoying this game a lot. It's just that there are walls,
Yeah.
that you hit at certain points, and you kind of need to get over them. And depending on what kind of player you are, certain ones are going to be easier than others. But for me, I hit a mission where you're infiltrating the wall again, and you're like having to liberate it from the PCA. And as you approach, you fight two ACs at the same time. They come out of the wall, and that part's not super difficult, but it wears you down enough that the next part towards the end, you don't have enough repair kits or ammo to deal with it necessarily. And you fight a bot like an AC that has like a fucking shield up, and I'm not
That's the what I was talking about. That
yeah, I'm not
heavy
kidding.
push.
I don't have the right build to deal with it, necessarily. And he's really aggressive, and it's in a room full of enemies too.
Yep.
So it's a pain in the ass. And that was like, I was like, all right, I need to put this game down. I'm gonna fucking get pissed again. So I just stopped playing for a bit. But I'm gonna get back to it. I need to figure it out. I do have other missions I could do too available to me right now. I don't have to do that one necessarily, but it was between that and then I hit a wall in the arena too, in the 1v1 part of it where you fight the ACs, and it was rank B, I think I'm on, or rank C, I'm not sure. I'm fighting someone in the desert where the Strider mission took place, and it's a fucking tank build AC that shoots like two bazookas at you.
Oh yeah, I fought him.
Oh
Yeah, I
my
beat him.
fucking
He took
god,
he
dude! I
took me a
can't
couple of tries. Yeah.
I cannot beat that motherfucker with my current build, and I'm trying so hard. I just need to change my build up. I know I do, but dude, it punishes you for trying to close the gap. And
Yes.
and if you aren't hitting it consistently at distance, you're doing no damage to it, dude. And
Yeah.
its stagger bar is really like large. It's hard to stagger it, and even if you do, your window of time to get in there is so short, you might not actually hit it before it unstaggers, and then you're gonna get two bazooka shots in the face and you're fucking dead. So it's in a really annoying AC in the arena. So I kind of hit these two walls in both paths of the game right now, and I'm like just kind of like, oh, all right, I need to fucking take it. I need to take a minute. I'll come back to it. So I did that, and then I decided to jump into these demos I was talking about. So Ghost Runner 2, we saw in I think it was a PlayStation showcase a while back, and it piqued my interest, certainly watching the gameplay of it. So I just decided to download it and give it a shot. And yeah, the demo is cool. It's one level, so it's not long. You can probably do it in less than an hour, I would say, all told. And this game is interesting, man. So it's a first-person action game, but it's also got a lot of platforming in it, I would say, and the combat is interesting. So I told you this over the weekend, but it's one hit kill. If you get hit, you're dead by anything. So you don't have a health bar. There's no mitigation. If you take a hit, you're dead. Now you can block attacks. You can block bullets with your katana and stuff like that, but you can't do it for very long. You have a stagger bar, and so you can't like hold like an entire machine gun volley, especially from multiple enemies at the same time. You will not survive through that. So you have to use cover smartly. You kind of have to approach battles or the encounters in an intelligent way, where you kind of use cover and try not to get noticed actually for a little bit as well, depending on the encounter. and plan your route of how you're going to take enemies out. Like you really need to, like, I'm going to start with this guy and then I'm going to move over here and take out these two real quick. And then that will funnel the rest towards me in this direction. And then I'm going to do this, that it's that kind of game. And I think it's actually really fun. It's very snappy. It controls really well. I do think this is kind of a game you would like, personally, and it's challenging for sure. Like when I was done with the demo, I think I died like 80 times or something stupid like that. So it's one of these games, but the thing is, when you die, it's not like a big deal. Like you die and you're literally instantly right back in the last checkpoint you were at, which is usually the same room you died in, basically, like
Okay.
at the beginning of that. So they don't punish you super hard for death. But it's really easy to die. There's many ways to do it. In falling off of things, not making your jumps right, that'll kill you just as much as fighting enemies will. Yeah, but the level's interesting. It starts really simple, where the encounters are like, I don't know, 2 or 3 really easy enemies to kill. And then later on, they start peppering in a little bit more complicated enemies that can block your attacks and actually like jump at you and dash at you and shit. And then they eventually, towards the end, they give you a room that has like 12 or 15 enemies in it, and it's a really difficult room to get through, because they come in bunches at you, and you've got like 1 or 2 of them shooting at you, and then you've got 2 or 3 melee guys coming at you, and then some of them might flank you if you kind of aggro them from the other side of the room or something like that. So it's a very very interesting game. It's cool. I don't know if I'm going to play it right away, but it's only $40 for the full version of the game, which I think is a good price for what this is. But that's the front side of the game. The first thing they introduce you to. There's actually a different part of the level as well, where you're kind of doing a motorcycle chase in first person, and this part of the level was really cool. But I will say this is probably where I racked up majority of my deaths was in the motorcycle section, because the game, you have to make turns and make jumps and kind of avoid barriers and stuff very fast, and you die if you don't, basically. So it's a really cool part of the game, and it seems like it's going to be a major mechanic within the game, based on the way they presented it. So
Mm-hmm.
I think in the full version of the game, it's going to be a split between these kind of more on foot platforming sections with combat and puzzles and stuff, and then the more high speed, kind of like racing sections, with the motorcycle mechanics. So
Okay.
it is a cool game. The music is really cool. It's got a very cyberpunk feel to it. And yeah, man, I think it's pretty good. So if you like it, if you like what you heard, like, just check out the demo. It's not very large, and like I said, it only takes an hour or less. So
Okay.
um yeah, for you, Montreal, I'd recommend it for sure. I think you would enjoy it personally.
All right. I'll check it out.
Um, so after that, I downloaded a second demo, which was for Star Ocean Second Story R. This is the remake of the second game. I don't know if this is a remake or it's a port of the remake that was on PSP,
Mm-hmm.
um, a while back, like 10 years ago.
Okay.
I'm not really sure, but it doesn't matter. In really in this context, like, the game is very well presented. It looks great. Like, I think it looks really good. It's like kind of that 2D, uh 2D HD, quote unquote, aesthetic that Square has patented with Octopath Traveler and other games.
Yeah.
Um it looks really good. It is a old school Super NES like JRPG, but it's an action game, Star Ocean's always been an action focused series, like Tales. Like, they've always been kind of adjacent to each other in my head, over the years. And this game is cool. You get to play the demo for 3 hours, and you can actually bring your save over to the game when it releases. So if you wanted to check it out and you ended up liking it, you would not lose your progress. You could carry it over to the game itself, which I think is cool. But um, it's um, it's interesting. So it's like it kind of looks like an old school Final Fantasy game in terms of, it's got like the world map and everything like those games had, where you kind of just walk out in these giant world map type environments where it's not super detailed, but you're walking through forests and over mountains and shit like that. But you're not like within those environments necessarily. But the combat is action focused. So when you enter it, you're on a battlefield. If you think of modern Tales, way Tales is, it's kind of like a 2D version of that.
Mm-hmm.
But it's very very snappy. It feels good. It's not super complicated at first. I'm sure it gets more complex later in the game, but it feels good. It felt good to play. I was enjoying it a lot. I am This one I think I'm gonna buy and play right away. Probably it is. It's gonna be $50, which I do think is a little steep for a remake like this. But nonetheless, I've never played this game, and I've heard it's the best Star Ocean in terms of story, and I'm intrigued by that for sure. And the way the game starts, I can see that it's very good so far. In the first couple hours that I ended up playing of it, so it's a really cool game. I'm excited to play more of it. So,
Nice.
Montreal, have you ever played Star Ocean?
Yes, I played The Last Hope and
Is that it?
The Last Hope and Star Ocean on the PS2. I played that one.
Oh, till the end of time. Okay.
Played in time. Yeah, I couldn't remember the
So-
name of it. And I
okay.
played Star Ocean on the PS4. I didn't like that one too much.
Integrity and Faithlessness.
Yeah.
Okay, you've actually played more than me then. Technically, more of the games than me. I fully completed though the one on PS2 and PS3.
Okay.
So I don't know if you beat those, but I beat the shit out of both of those games. So I was pretty deep in those. But yeah. So moving on to the last game I've been playing, which is Star Ocean: The Divine Force. So playing the second story kind of got me in a Star Ocean mood, and I decided to just pop this game in because I've had it for a while now, almost a year, and I've been thinking about playing it recently, and I just said, "Fuck it, I'm just gonna try it." So I started playing it, and I don't know if you remember the trailer for this game initially, but it looked pretty bad. I remember when we talked about it, we were both like, "Ooh, boy, like this where Star Ocean is?" And it's an interesting game. So it looks worse than it is. I think the worst thing about it is the way it looks. Definitely.
Okay.
It doesn't look good. The character models for the most part look like ass, and the character designs are all over the place. You've got those like doll like female, fantasy star style looking characters, but then you also have more normal looking female characters that don't have those like giant eyes,
Yeah.
that look like a fucking cat. um and then the male characters, like the main character kind of looks really derpy. And I will say the character models too, in cutscenes especially, there's kind of this blur factor on them. Like they're blurry looking, like they're not sharp. And on a modern PS5 game, even though I know this game's on PS4 as well, that's like, man, this game has got to be on a shoestring budget, dude, honestly. So I can tell, you can tell the budget isn't large for this game when you start playing it. But what I will say is, so far the combat is certainly interesting. It is, it's your normal Star Ocean like action based combat, but the game is really snappy, and the control is really good. Control of your character is very precise, and I think that is really good for a game like this. And you know what's funny about this shit? I'm talking about how budget this game is, but you know how in Tales of Arise you go into a different battle screen when you engage in a battle, and remember how they originally showed it that when you engaged in combat, it just happened on the field, like you didn't go into a separate screen. This game does that. I'm like, what the fuck? Like, what? Like, how does Namco not figure that out? But this shit does. Like, this game probably has like a third of the budget, if that, of that game. I'm like, what the hell, dude? So yeah, it's nice when you're running around. If you run into enemies, you're just in combat. There's no loading screen or anything. So you just start fighting, and I actually really like that element of it. It gives it much more of a Xenoblade feel, and I think it works really well here also. And I think Tails would do well to kind of take that on with its next game, because I think that was one of the weirder things about Tales of Arise, that they marketed the game one way and then eventually changed it to the more traditional battle, battle type, and I don't think it worked very well. In that game, that was like one of the things. It's like it's not a huge deterrent, like it's not a huge negative, but it is noticeable, and it's
Yeah.
like it was something that we were excited about. I think when they originally showed it, was like, holy shit, this franchise is evolving, and then it didn't. It's like, and then here we are with Star Ocean, which is a much lower budget franchise, and they're fucking doing it. It's like I don't know. So, anyways, so back to Star Ocean. I do think you would like this game in some ways. So far, based on what I've seen. So the combat has some depth to it, where there's like an AP system where you have an AP bar and you have a certain amount of AP, and everything you do in combat in terms of attacking costs you AP, a certain amount of it. And if you're going to combo enemies, it's going to cost you AP for each string in the combo, basically a different amount of AP,
Hmm.
depending on what the skill is. And you recharge AP really quickly, but you can't do it while you're dodging. And you also need to wait like a second before the recharge starts. So it can be kind of limiting if you're not fighting very well. If you're just trying to spam attacks, you can't really do that in this game. You need to be a little bit more thoughtful with it. And I think it works. I actually think it works pretty well because you can, the blindside mechanic from Star Ocean makes a return in this game. And
Okay.
if you blindside an enemy, it gives you more AP. So your AP bar will go from 6 max to like 12 max or something, which gives you a lot more leeway to operate with in combat. So you're a little bit more engaged. And I think it is weird though. I will say the way it works in this game is weird. So if you want to blindside, you don't do it by dodging, which I think is what you did in, I want to say, in The Last Hope.
Last
That was
hope
how
you did
you,
that. You blindside somebody, but they
yeah.
actually like have a sequence for it. It was
Yeah,
kind
you're
of
right. I remember that. Yeah.
interrupted the gameplay, to be honest with you. But yeah, they had a sequence for it where
Yeah,
you
it had this
blindside
like
some.
cinematic that would play every time you did
Yeah.
it. But it was when you did a perfect dodge, right? Or a perfect
Yeah.
parry.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Perfect dodge, I believe they called it, or something like
Yeah.
that.
That is not the way it works in this game. So the way it works in this game is you'll have this bar. It's like a Duma. It's called a Duma bar, Duma energy or something like that. I think they call it VR energy or something. I don't remember exactly what it's called, but it's this blue bar under your AP bar basically, and you'll hold R1, and your character will kind of levitate in the air, and you will target an enemy, and you'll dash towards them if you just let go, but while you're charging, you can actually dodge left or right. And depending on the timing of when you do that, you will blindside them if you do it at the right moment. So they'll lose sight of you, going left or
Okay.
right, and then you'll see the like exclamation point question mark above their head, and that will be a blindside basically, and you will put them in a state where they're like stunned basically, and they take every attack they take as a critical. It's a really important way to do massive damage in this game. It is not something I've figured out yet, though. Playing the game, I've only been playing for about 4 hours, and I'm not the bigger enemies. I'm not able to. I haven't really figured out how to do it consistently on them yet. So there is some depth to it.
Okay. Yeah,
Um,
I'm just really I've lowered my threshold for, like, combat in games. I understand not every game's gonna be a fucking Scarlet Nexus or Devil May Cry or anything like that. So I'm gonna give it a try. Um, when I saw the combat, it gave me really really bad Valkyrie Elysium vibes, and that game combat was so
yeah,
bad.
yeah.
That game was so boring. And the story wasn't enough to like. How is the
Mhm.
story? Is it decent or?
Yeah. So, well, just to stick on the combat real quick, I just want
Mhm.
to kind of give you the full run of it right now, at least that I've seen it. So, the way the game works is, and I mean, Star Ocean's always been this way, but it seems a little bit more in depth here. Is you actually build your own combo strings with your skills. So
Okay.
your square, triangle, and circle are 3 different combo strings you can execute, and you can make those customized the way you want, however you see fit with every character. You can do that. So basically, you could use the same skill 3 times. You could use 3 different skills. You could mix and match however you want, and you could do that with all 3 buttons basically. And I like that a lot. It gives you a lot of customizability in the way your character plays. And you can also control any of the party members. This is pretty typical of Star Ocean, but that does return here, which is also cool. And they all have their own very distinct kind of play style, which is, you know, always important for these games also. So I think you would like that element to it. There is a skill tree though in the game, and it is. You were talking about the percentage based increases in, you know, Cyberpunk.
Mhm.
That is here. You're most of the passives you get are like 16% attack or 12% defense, you know, and that kind of thing. I will say it is very noticeable here though. When you increase your stats, you will see a very noticeable increase in damage, and decrease in the damage that you take, at least so far that I've noticed. So I'm not sure how that will continue throughout the game, but leveling in Star Ocean's always been really fucking weird. Their leveling systems have never been straightforward,
Yeah, I was
compared
about
to
to say
things like Final
like
Fantasy. Yeah.
they always had like a weird way of leveling.
Yeah, because
Their
when you
stuff.
level up, you gain stats. Your character gains stats, but
Yeah.
you also get SP, and you use that SP to buy things in the skill tree. But you also use that to upgrade your skills, like your arts. You can use it to upgrade your passive skills as well. So you have to like decide what's most important to you at any given moment. Is
Hmm.
it upgrading a skill or buying something on the skill tree, upgrading your stats on the skill tree, or maybe buying a new art on the skill tree? You know, things along those lines. So
It
it's a
almost sounds
a very non-linear leveling path.
yeah, it almost sounds like Cyberpunk. That's funny. Cuz Cyberpunk when you level up, you get 2 points. Like it's 1 to 1. So one
Yeah.
is for the actual. So say like you have like 5 tiers, right? You have like
Yep.
these are not actual things, but you got like strength, tech, brain, cool, and all other stuff like that.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
if you level up your cool, you have like a tier of skills that's from like 1 to 5, right? So you put points and you put that point into it that levels it up for like level 2 in tier and cool.
Yep.
So you have passives and everything is like within that 1 to 5 bracket. Once you get your skill points up to level 5, then you
Yep.
have like other skills and passives that are unlocked. Now to put points into that, you get a separate one, which I forgot what they call, but you get a separate skill point for those, and you can choose to put one into one of the passives. Like first you have a major one, and then it branches
Hmm.
out like kind of like a
Yep.
spear grid type deal. So you have a major one.
Mm-hmm.
So say like if you want to start deflecting bullets, it has like for your katana, you put level 1 into it. You can't deflect bullets until you get to the level 2 version of it, and then
Mm-hmm.
you unlock
Mm-hmm.
other passives associated with that said skill that you just unlocked or ability. So and then it has like branching, arching stuff and everything like that. So that's the way Cyberpunk works. But it almost sounds like it's like that as well, just
Yeah.
to a more stricter degree.
Yeah. It's more flat, right? You don't get two different skill type, you know,
Yeah.
points or anything like that. It's all one pool. And so far, I've only gotten it from leveling. I'm not sure if there are going to be other ways to obtain those points, but it's the choices are actually difficult so far. Like even gaining like 4 levels and waiting to use your points until you've gotten enough. Like I've only been able to upgrade a couple things with that, and you know, I'm focusing on stats right now, but I'm gonna need to upgrade my arts too. You know, so they do more damage and are more effective. Also, so it's kind of it is an interesting kind of choice based progression, which is interesting for a JRPG because that's not that typical. I guess I would say it's gotten more typical in recent years. I will say Final Fantasy certainly kind of embraced this since 10, but you know, it's I think it's a little bit even deeper than that though, you know. Where in Final Fantasy, like the sphere grid is it. That's your leveling progression system, you know, and
Hmm.
it's the same in 16 is just like the icon kind of skill grid that they let you choose from. You do get you can upgrade skills in that game too, I guess. So that it's kind of a corollary to that a little bit, but it's a little more traditional in the sense that you get your base stats from some of your base stats from the skill tree in Star Ocean Divine Force. So I will say the other thing about combat is so far is the AI I haven't felt like is very good. My party members die a lot and it's not good. I end up having to fight everything by myself and it's doable. But damn, dude, I'm playing on normal and my party's just constantly dying. The beginning of this game is a little rough. I feel like because they don't give you a healer. And you know, in a JRPG, dude, that you know how rough that can be, man. Like you can't heal with that. The only way you have to heal is using items. And if you run out of items and you're in the field, like trying to get to the next town, and there's no way to rest or anything like that, like you're just you're stuck. You gotta like string along until you can get to the inn, to the next inn. So it's kind of like that early in the game, which is intriguing for sure. I kind of like that though. I like it when these JRPGs kind of put you in a position where you're almost playing like survival. You kind of feel that like survival element that the characters are going through, like on their journey in the beginning. I do kind of enjoy that a little bit. So there's a little bit of that. So getting over to the story, story so far, there's not a lot to say. It's very traditional Star Ocean. I will say you do get to pick which protagonist you want to play as. They've done this in the past. Actually, Star Ocean Second Story R has two different protagonists you can play as, and it's the same thing here. It's a male and a female, and there doesn't seem to be huge differences from what I read. It's mostly just some certain cutscenes that you will see on one version versus the other. You won't, and you're going to get a little bit of a different perspective on the events happening, basically. So
Mhm.
it doesn't really matter that much. You get both characters. They meet right away. You know, it's like it's not that big of a deal. I'm going to assume there are sections of the game where they're separated from each other, and you're going to kind of miss the other side's version of events when that separation happens. But so yeah. But the story itself, you know, it's very Star Ocean. This happens in every one of these games, I feel like, and it is a little bit of a trope with this series. Can kind of annoys me to a degree. I wish they would explore things a little bit differently. As much as I didn't like The Last Hope from a story perspective, I did appreciate the fact that that game did not force you to stay on one planet the entire time. And you know, I liked that element of that game because you went to like 5 or 6 planets in that game. Um, Whereas most of the time in Star Ocean, they find some excuse to strand your character on a medieval underdeveloped planet. And they do it again here. Like that's what happens. Your character gets stranded on a medieval planet that's underdeveloped and you know all that shit, and it's a fantasy world and they have fucking magic and shit and swords and whatever the fuck, you know. And it's like that is Star Ocean, but at the same time it's a little annoying at the same time because I feel like Star Ocean could be more. Like it could be a Japanese Mass Effect style game if it really wanted to try to do that. But they don't. You know, they never really have done that. So I didn't expect it, but you know, here we are again. It's a trope. This is how they do their stories. And yeah, I'm not very far. You know, the main characters have met each other. The voice acting is okay. The English dub is all right, I will say. There is some weirdness with some of the dialogue sometimes. It feels like some of the lines were misplaced almost, where like characters say something and then somebody else cuts in and says something else completely unrelated. And it's like almost like they didn't edit that previous line out or something like that. So there's a little bit of awkwardness here and there too. But I will say, like, character, the control is the thing I'm probably most impressed with so far. I feel like the game, like, you're in full control of your character at all times, pretty much. And movement is pretty good. The animations are definitely awkward though; they don't look great. Particularly like the running animation for the male lead is like super weird. He like hunches over when he runs, and he just looks like he's fucking super stocky. It's just funny looking. But I will say one other mechanic though early on the game gives you is the Duma, which I mentioned already. This thing has more than just combat function. It is used in exploration also. So I don't know if you remember when we saw the trailer for this game, the character was like flying around and shit during exploration. That's what this thing does. Basically, it allows you to kind of zoom in a straight line in any direction, and you will basically go forward like I don't know 50 meters, and then it stops, and you can use it to glide as well through the air, but you can't fly around infinitely. It's got a set distance that it can go, and it's kind of limited on at times, depending on where you are, you can't look in any direction either with it. Like there's like a limit of how high of a degree you can aim upwards. So it's interesting. It definitely makes exploration a little bit more open, I guess. There's definitely elevation and stuff where you can find chests and things like that, certainly. And you can actually upgrade this thing to enhance your combat abilities, but also enhance its usefulness on the field as well, because it has a function in it that it lets you scan in a certain area around your character, and it will tell you where chests are or items of interest might be nearby, and that is super useful. So for sure. But um, yeah, other than that, that's pretty much it so far.
Okay.
I'm not. This game isn't great. You can feel its budget. Like this isn't an amazing game by any stretch of the imagination. I have heard the story gets pretty spicy. Soon-ish for me. So I will report back if that changes. Certainly, it's definitely super tame right now, but I haven't really done a whole lot of anything within the game story. So we'll see about that. But you can definitely, like I said, you can feel the budget for sure. But if you like Star Ocean, this one seems like it's at least decent, which was not the case with the PS4 one, which from everything I heard was just absolutely fucking horrible. So, so yeah, at least the series isn't dead or anything like that. But it just surprises me though that Square won't invest more into this franchise, because it could really be their version of Tales, and it just seems like they don't care that much, because I've always compared Star Ocean and Tales in my head, and Tales is clearly the much bigger budget franchise, but would I say that Tales is better? Not in every way, I guess. And they definitely have different ways of doing combat and progression. Like in Tales, I'd say character progression is a lot more straightforward generally in Tales. Whereas in Star Ocean, there's usually a little bit more depth to building your characters, and that's the case here. They usually have really deep crafting systems in Star Ocean, which I have not gotten to yet in this game as well. So, whereas Tales is a little bit more surface level and straightforward, generally speaking. So, and also, Tales is fantasy and Star Ocean is sci-fi. So there's
Yeah.
like that strict delineation too between the two franchises. But it just frustrates me a little though. It's like I feel like they could do more with Star Ocean, and they just refuse. Like Square just refuses to. So
Yeah, I think the problem is they put, especially within the last couple of years, they put too much money into Final Fantasy 16. Um, I just think they don't know how to manage their budgets, because I feel like that's the same way I feel about Valkyrie Elysium. Like I used to love Valkyrie Profile a lot, and when I played Valkyrie Elysium, which is supposed to be like the spiritual successor, or I don't know if it takes place in the same universe, or they're kind of like they were trying to reboot the franchise. I can see the effort they put into the game.
Yeah.
And it's like if they had more money, the game would have been better. But I was so upset when I played it, and it's like, how can you let? To me, it was a staple of Square. Like it was always Valkyrie Profile, Star Ocean, Final Fantasy.
Squaresoft, definitely, dude.
Yeah,
Back then,
it was one of their staples, and for them to just let like that game be released in that state, even though apparently I am in the minority with this game. Apparently, a lot of people love this game, so more power to y'all. I hope the next game gets a lot
just
more.
Desperate for anything, dude. They'll like anything just because it's like I feel like there's a lot of Star Ocean fans like this too. I was reading a lot of the stuff online, and people are like, "Oh my god, this game is great. This is my favorite in the franchise," and I'm like, what? Like, I mean, I haven't played it that deeply, but bro, I can tell you what right now that Star Ocean: The Last Hope had a way, like, relative to its time of release, had a way bigger budget than this game did, and you could tell, like, that game had a presentation to it that was impressive at the time,
Yeah.
And it definitely plays a lot. Like, I think that game has the best combat in the franchise, personally.
Yeah, I can see that. I could definitely agree with that. I feel like they put a lot more effort into it. I think before it went to PS3, it was almost, I want to say it was Xbox 360 exclusive, because that's when I played it.
Me too.
So I think they put a lot more effort into it because they were trying to get like that Japanese audience onto the Xbox 360 platform. But But yeah, I don't know. I haven't really felt any Star Ocean after that, to be honest with you. The one I played for the PS4, I liked what they were trying to do with the combat system. Like having like 7 people in the party was really
Mm-hmm.
fucking cool. But the story, in my opinion, was just ass. Like I was just like, I don't really care about this story. Um, and it's like they never expounded on that or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
I don't
Yeah.
know. Square just needs to, if they really want to get back into the JRPG game, like they really need to try harder. In my opinion, they need to allocate their money other than Final Fantasy. Like, don't get me wrong, I love Final Fantasy 16. And I said this about Final Fantasy 16, and we're already starting to see the effects of it. I don't think I said it on the podcast, but I did say it on Twitter. I think even 5 years, I would say even 2 years from now, I don't think Final Fantasy 16 is going to age too well, like at all.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's going to age horribly. I think the combat's really good, but everything surrounding it, bro. The voice
Mm-hmm.
acting's really good. The story's good. But the pacing of the game and everything else, the open world shit, like everything else surrounding that game it's just not gonna, not gonna
Well,
age
this
well.
is true of a lot of games, man. I mean, we talked about that game, the bloat in that game,
Yeah,
when we were reviewing it a couple months ago. And I think if we ever get out of this period of bloat right now that we're in, where every game is like way bigger than it needs to be,
yeah,
if we come out of this and the industry kind of downsizes scope at some point with AAA games, I do feel like we're gonna look back at this period of like 5 to 10 years where it's gonna be like every game was way bigger than it needed to be, and some people are gonna miss that, and some people are gonna, like me, I'm gonna look back on it and be like, why were we doing this with every game, dude? Like
yeah,
we talked about it with Final Fantasy 16, man. Like take out all the side quests, take out the fucking the pseudo open world bullshit, like and cut down the storyline to a clean like 30 hours, and you would have had a better game, than what we got. And it's like kind of frustrating to say that because I love Final Fantasy 16 in retrospect. I did really like the game, but
I
yeah.
know, and I know, like I know we're already like what 2 hours already. We're almost 2 hours. We ain't getting to
Yeah,
it,
we're fine. But
um,
it's whatever. It's good.
but I really wanted to talk about Final Fantasy 16. Like, I don't know if we want to do a retrospective episode of it, but
Hmm.
I feel like the opposite is happening of Final Fantasy 16 that's happening with like say Final Fantasy 15 or Cyberpunk or um Kingdom Hearts 3, right? Like the
Hmm.
reception towards Final Fantasy 16 was like really great. It was actually mixed in my opinion. Maybe
Yeah.
a little bit more
Yeah.
mixed. I would say 60-40 great. But now
Hmm.
even the people that were on the great side are like, it had some problems, you know? And it's
Yeah.
like I think a lot of us, well, me and you, we were realistic about the situation. I feel like we
Yeah.
were like, it's a great game. The especially like the really great moments are like really great moments, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And and then the really bad moments though are like really fucking bad.
Yeah. It's just
Um,
interspersed with like really a lot of bullshit that doesn't
yeah,
need to be there. I'm not saying like I'm a big advocate for slow periods and stories. Like I think it's required to tell a good story.
yeah,
But Final Fantasy 16 had too much of that, where you have these amazing set piece moments and these climactic battles, and then you're running around fucking collecting dirt for, and doing shit like that for 3 hours, the next 3 hours. It's just like, what the fuck is going on, dude?
yeah. No,
Um,
it's not a good. It's he designed it in a way that is still Final Fantasy 14. I don't think he
yeah,
got out of that
I agree.
design mentality,
I
or
agree.
they got out of that design mentality. I can't just put it on him. It's the team. I don't think they got out of that design mentality of 14, where because I mean 14 had a lot of bloat, but it's an
But it's an
MMO.
MMO. It has to
Yeah,
it's
so it
like it
has to have
almost
the
has to
bloat.
have that stuff, right?
And
Yeah.
I feel like they approached this too with that same mentality because they do put a lot of story shit in 14 with the bloat. Like you get a lot of character development, a lot of world
Yeah.
building and everything like that
Absolutely.
in
Yes.
14. And they try to do that with this game, but the problem is this is a single player game. And you can take a lot more liberties with other ways to fulfill that need to tell the story without all that extra bloat or go kill 5 enemies here or hey, go get me this character, go get me this or whatever the case may be. And I just feel like the budget was kind of wasted on that game. You can see where the budget was like there's not normally there's times where you don't see where the budget is wasted on the game or whatever. But to me, like I saw it and I was just like, they could have cut all this shit out. I didn't need all this extra dialogue. I didn't need all this extra this, not, and the third.
Yeah, and then you get to the icon battles, and it's like some of the most ridiculous set pieces we've ever seen in a game.
Exactly, exactly.
Yeah, it's nuts.
Yeah, it's just strong highs and strong lows. I would like for them to branch out and just do it with other games, man. Like I understand, like Final Fantasy is always going to be your bread and butter RPG. It got a lot of people into RPGs, but you have other games out there as well that need this this type of scope or whatever, right?
Oh man, yeah.
And I'm just one thing. I like Valkyrie Profile. Star Ocean is a really great example of that. Star Ocean could be the next. I think Star Ocean has the potential to be the next Xenoblade. Like it has, as far as storytelling and everything like that.
I'm glad you brought that up. It's like I get so annoyed with the industry sometimes because it's like there's no game that's like truly great in this niche of like the sci-fi JRPG. Star Ocean used to be it, and it's really not there anymore. And then Xenoblade made their sci-fi game in Xenoblade Chronicles X, right?
Yeah.
But they've like abandoned that sub game, that sub series for years now, and I'm like, fuck, man, like. When I played Xenoblade Chronicles X, I'm like literally like, this is Phantasy Star and Star Ocean, dude, in Monolith's vision, and it's so fucking good. And I'm just like, I need y'all to make like a Star Ocean game, Like I want that so fucking bad from that team, and I just don't think I'm gonna get it. Like I don't think their headspace is there. They're very dedicated to the core Xenoblade Chronicles franchise, but dude, it's like, man, like you guys can do it, and I think you could do it better than anybody, and it's like it's just not going to happen. So then I come to Star Ocean for this kind of thing, and it's unfortunately it's just the budget isn't there really, and in the vision isn't there too. There's just some weirdness with this franchise too that's always been there. Like there's a kid character that I just ran into, and she's like fucking super well endowed, for a child. And I'm just like, and she's wearing this like cleavage shirt, like a tank top. I'm like, what's going on here? This is clearly a kid, It's
it's bad. Like
it's like,
it's some games is really bad.
Yeah.
You know what? It's funny. You can tell when like a game's only design. I was playing Xenoblade Chronicles X like a couple months ago, and I forgot one of the main characters you get. She's kind of well endowed, but she also mentions that she's like 13, and I'm like, bro.
Yeah,
why is this character like looking like this or whatever?
Yeah.
I don't mind fan service in games. Like I used to be against it, but it's just like now I'm like, bro, like sometimes I do want a little eye candy here and there, so I don't fucking care. But like, yeah, I don't like the whole little I'm 13, but I look like I'm fucking 25. It's like,
hold on, I'm gonna send you the I'm gonna put a link in the chat. Like
it's like I don't know. But yeah, like I just feel like they could do a lot better with their games. They can branch out better with their games and everything of that nature. I'm hoping after Final Fantasy VII, like they do that and they see that and they realize like we can do a lot better. Because I don't know, I just want Star Ocean to be great, man. I want Valkyrie Profile, Valkyrie Elysium. I want those games to be great. And I want them to go. And to me, in my opinion, Baldur's Gate showed everybody that if you have a quality game, no matter what you say about the combat of Baldur's Gate 3, we like that style of combat, but we know that's not everybody's cup of tea. But people are still playing this game because it's just that good. Like,
yeah.
And you can make a good tactics game. There's no reason why they couldn't make a high quality Final Fantasy Tactics game with like good voice acting and good set pieces and everything of that nature. Like, I mean, Fire Emblem proved that. Like, Fire Emblem sold like hotcakes. And that's, in my opinion, it's nowhere near as good as the storytelling in like Final Fantasy. Final Fantasy Tactics or something like that.
Definitely not. There are only a couple in the entire franchise that are in that realm.
Yeah, and like the one game I even forgot about it, Diofield Chronicles. That game looked really cool. I want to play it, but they didn't even advertise that game. Now that game's probably dead.
It's
you know
dead,
what I'm saying? Yeah. And I'm gonna go back and play it, but it looked really cool. It looked like a cool mix of like JRPG, CRPG, tactics style gaming. And it's like, why did y'all just let that die? Like, put money behind these games. And I feel like sometimes they just purposely do shit like that. And I don't I don't get it. Like, I don't understand it. And it's just really weird to me with Square, because they have so many good things under their belt that they can like experiment. You just don't have to do it with like Final Fantasy. Like, I know that's your main bread and butter, but like, we never would have got a Kingdom Hearts if it wasn't because of that shit, you know? Like, we never would have got some of these other games if y'all just didn't try shit, you know?
Tactics
like, where's
Ogre,
my
dude.
Parasite Eve at, man? Like,
no, where's Tactics Ogre? Like, they are so. I feel like they have botched the shit out of having an IP as good as Tactics Ogre in their catalog and done nothing with it other than remake the original game a couple times. Like, what the fuck, man? Like, if you go look into the lore of that series and like read about it, it is so fucking detailed. Like, the political landscape of that world is so fucking interesting, dude. And some of the shit these characters do and have done, there's just so much history between the games too. And there's crossover within the games of like certain characters being in multiple games. And it's so fucking interesting, man. Like, one of the main villains from Tactics Ogre Reborn is the main character of the GBA game, and it is so interesting. Like, I didn't know that when I originally played the GBA game back in the day, and I learned that several years ago. And I started reading about it, and it's so interesting to read about, like, how that character from the GBA game transformed into this villain in the like one of the which hilariously is like one of the first games in the franchise, but like that was like a prequel for that character, and it's such an interesting thing. And it's like Square just, they don't do anything with it, dude. No Ogre Battle games, no Tactics Ogre games. Like, what are we doing, man? Like, come on, dude. And it's like they clearly are interested enough in the franchise that they're willing to go back to the well and remake it a couple times, but I don't know if it's like they're trying to test the waters to see if there's some palatability for it, like that there's actually an audience for this shit. Maybe that's what they're doing, and they're just not getting the response that they want necessarily. But I feel like give them a shot. Let them make a modern Tactics Ogre game, or a modern Ogre Battle game. Dude, you know how crazy people would go if you announced a new Ogre Battle game, a new modern Ogre Battle game. Like, I feel like people would lose their fucking minds, That is a classic franchise, back in the day. Ogre Battle means something to people,
Yeah.
And it's like I just, and it's a really well-known name within video games. As old as it is, interestingly enough, I mean, people know what Ogre Battle is, though, and it's there's just a certain group of people, like specifically my age, your, like our age, specifically, but even older than that, people towards their 40s, that played these games, and like, I just feel like they're leaving something on the table, man. And other people are starting to experiment in that space where, like, that game Vanillaware is making, dude, that's an Ogre Battle game. They're making an Ogre Battle game. Like, well, what the fuck?
It's a shame that smaller companies are doing stuff like, we got 13 Sentinels out and people are loving that game. I want to say it's so, like, not like 5 or 6 million copies, like, but maybe like 1 or 2 million copies. You know what I'm saying? It's a really good game, and obviously we had Front Mission obviously do its remake, but it's just like they're not putting any money behind these games. Like, imagine like a modern, well told with the budget of like Final Fantasy 16 front mission game that come out.
I don't even need that. I don't need that. That's too much. But give it more than like the few million that you hand these teams,
Yeah, exactly.
Like give it like 20 million or 30 million or something like that,
Yeah.
Something at least notable,
exactly. And I just want companies to make, and I understand like it's harder to do nowadays, with investments and everything of that nature, but I just want more quality middleware games, like middle games. It shouldn't be like make or break with these games. It shouldn't be trash or ungodly good with these games. And I just feel like that's so unfair to us, and it's super unfair to developers who have like more ideas, more stories they want to tell, and everything of that nature. But they gotta tack it on to the Final Fantasy thing, because I really feel like Final Fantasy 16 was like something Yoshi P wanted to tell, right? He wanted to tell that story, but they had to tack Final Fantasy 16 onto it just to sell it. You know what I'm saying? Like even Final Fantasy 15, I feel like Nomura really wanted to tell that story in a whole totally different way, but he had to like get the movie, or we gotta do this whole rollout. And I honestly, looking back at it now, I feel bad for Final Fantasy 15 and Nomura, because I really don't feel like he wanted to do the rollout that they did with that game. I feel like he wanted to tell a cohesive story.
Yeah.
And even probably with Final Fantasy or with Kingdom Hearts, he probably want to tell more cohesive story. Because like, look at Final Fantasy 7 remake. Like that game, the way it tells the story is like, you're like, I see what you're doing now, bro. I see everything coming together now.
True. Well, that's an interesting theory you're throwing out there. So do you think all the side games in Kingdom Hearts weren't from Nomura, but Square pushing them to make other games in the franchise that weren't like mainline games that needed to be humongous, like huge budgets?
Yes. The reason I say that, so I actually do want to go on record and say I apologize for my Nomura slander. But I think I did already. But anyway, I do see it, man, because Square will pimp out a game. And the reason I noticed this is 2B from Nier. She is in almost every gacha game, especially like the really, really raunchy gacha games. She's in every fucking gacha game known to fucking man right now.
Yes, sir.
They pimp her out like a $2 hoe. She's in this one game called, I think it's called Nikkei, where like it's like the shooting game or whatever. And she's in that game now, and her ass is jiggling when she shoots the gun. And I'm like, I mean, like, yeah, like it's in the original game, like you could blow her skirt off or whatever. But I'm just like, bro, when are we gonna get a Nier Automata 2 or something like that? Or if there's even gonna be a Nier Automata 2, the way they end it. But it's just like why are we just pimping her out? Like Nier Automata came out 5 years ago, I think, right? 6 years ago, and we're still seeing her in other games like that. That's how iconic she is at this point now. We have people cosplaying as her, and she's like, I mean, unfortunately, she's like a sex symbol, but she's also just like a symbol of a character who's like really well designed and everything of that nature.
Yeah.
And I'm pretty sure what's his name? Yoko Taro, right? Yoko Taro?
Yes. Yeah.
I'm pretty sure Yoko Taro, I mean, we know he's kind of like a perv, but I mean, like, he owns his like weirdness or whatever. So I'm pretty sure he doesn't mind the character doing what she's doing, but it's just like in the same sense, it's like, bro, like Square is just pimping this character out, and like no one's noticing it. And that's when I really noticed it. I'm like, man, if you go back and look at these games, like they pimped out Final Fantasy 15. They pimped out fucking Kingdom Hearts to the point where it destroyed the franchise. And they tried to do it with 13. I think 13 was like their test subject, in my opinion. But they it just didn't have the marketability for it because everyone hated 13. So yeah, when 15 came out, that's when they tried it. And yeah, it worked. And I think that's what they're looking for. They're looking for their Star Wars. You know what I'm saying? Like something that they can continuously tack on shit and just keep doing it. Now that Kingdom Hearts has ended, as much as I want 7 to be good, I feel like they're gonna do it again with 7. And I mean, there are games like I do want a solo Vincent game again. I think Dyers of Cerberus was one of the worst fucking Square Enix games ever to exist. Besides the Front Mission game, Last Mission, I think that was called, or Front Mission 4, or whatever the
Front
fuck.
Mission Evolution, I think.
Front Mission Evolution. Besides that game, it was Dyers of Cerberus. So I do want Vincent to get a game, but it's also like I don't want them.
Front Mission Evolved. What a terrible name! Oh my god.
I don't want them to start pimping the game out and everything like that. But I think they are going to pimp the game out. And I'm pretty sure they got like 3 or 4 teams working on this game, and or on spinoffs and everything for Final Fantasy VII. They're trying to revive it for the newer generation. I mean, even in our generation, they sprinkled it out throughout the years, but there are numerous Final Fantasy VII games out there. So,
well, there was Advent Children, the movie.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that. Fucking
forgot about that. Yeah, that movie. Yeah, no, I mean it's an interesting thought because Final Fantasy VII Remake is an awesome game, and it feels like I mean I don't know, maybe Nomura finally got to have total control and just did what he wanted to do, and it worked out. I mean, there are weird things in that game, certainly, that are they feel very Nomura, but they work in the context of the game. So it's okay. It's kind of fine. But I don't know. I mean, cause the excess with Kingdom Hearts over the last 20 years is definitely notable. And I do feel like it would be weird if that was all driven by Nomura and Square was just like, sure, Whereas rather than the idea that Square was like, no, fucking make another Kingdom Hearts game and do it on a $15 million budget,
Yeah.
And we're gonna sell a shit ton of copies off of the name, and we're gonna make huge profits off this game that we're not spending a lot of money on,
Yeah, because he had to make a story for each Kingdom Hearts game. That's why the story is so convoluted. I really don't think he anticipated what he anticipated. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Yeah, and then when 3 came, it was kind of impossible to make the story conclude in a way that was satisfying.
Exactly.
As much as we don't like that game, the story in that game, I don't know. Is it Nomura's fault that things ended up the way that they did? I don't know. We can't. We're speculating. So
yeah,
it is what it is. But no, I mean, Square is a frustrating company because, like, dude, they have so much good IP, man, at their disposal, and it's just so much of it they don't do it. Like Front Mission, I'm glad you mentioned Front Mission too, because it's another franchise. Like they're dabbling with it, right? They're remaking, 1, 2, and it sounds like they're going to remake 3 as well, which I appreciate. I do actually appreciate this to put them in a place where you can play them, on modern game consoles because they're actually not easy to play right now, or hadn't been easy to play before the remakes are released. But at the same time, is that all we're gonna get? Because bro, I need a Front Mission 6. Like Front Mission is so good. Like it's so goddamn good. The shit I was saying about Tactics Ogre, like apply that to Front Mission too. Front Mission has amazing lore, dude. Like it is so fucking interesting. And I want to see another entry in the franchise. And Front Mission is a franchise that you could go balls to the wall with in terms of budget, and you could make something incredible, for a high budget. And I think it would work, and Square should really be taking note of Armored Core right now, and the renewed popularity of that franchise. As much as it's driven by From Software, at the same time, it's going to increase interest in these kind of mech games. And Front Mission is a classic in that genre, or in that space, as much as it's a tactical game, obviously not an action game, but tactical RPGs, dude, they're all the rage right now. I'm living in a fucking world I never thought I would live in, dude, with all these tactics games. Like, I can't believe how popular tactics games are becoming, because I've been singing from the fucking rooftops to anybody who would listen to me that this genre rules. And it finally feels like the industry and gamers have caught up to that, like, viewpoint. Because, dude, we're getting them all over the place. Everybody's making tactics games. Yeah, what the fuck?
And you know what? I mean,
and they're successful too. That's the crazy part. It's not just that they're making them; they're selling.
There are a lot more people in gaming now, Justin. Like, a lot more people. And I mean, 2020 had a lot to do with that, but it was even before 2020. The industry was growing exponentially, and I think a lot of people, especially now, You see a lot of streamers saying like a lot of kids follow these streamers and listen to their every word and everything like that. Um, but I think a lot of people are like they're tired of the first person shooters and they want to play other games or they're discovering there's other games out there.
Yeah.
And I think as good as Baldur's Gate just sold, I think people are starting to learn like, hey man, like I don't need a high octane Call of Duty or I don't need a Madden.
Mm-hmm.
I can get like the satisfaction of playing the game from a Baldur's Gate game. Maybe I
Yeah.
should go back and play some of these fucking other games. Anime fans, especially, I feel like are Switch users.
Yeah.
So, like, to me, in my opinion, Fire Emblem is nothing but a giant anime, like a
Yes.
really good
100%.
anime with tactics around it, right?
Yeah.
And people are playing these games and they're like, man, I really like Fire Emblem. What are other games like Fire Emblem? And now we're seeing these other games come out, and these younger kids are playing them. And they're like, okay, this shit is really good. And I know, like, even me, like, this is why I do like remakes or remasters. And this is why I hate them as well, because, like, I've already played them, I've already experienced them. But then I have to think there's a whole generation of kids who have not experienced these games before. So for
Mm-hmm.
me, like, yeah, I'm tired of the 8-bit graphics and stuff like that, and they're like, wow, games can be good even though graphics are like this. Like Triangle
Yeah.
Strategy is one of them.
Oh yeah.
Octopath Traveler. Even though I know you don't like the game, a ton of people love that game,
I mean,
and
I don't
it's
hate
like
it. It's a
you
good
don't
game.
you don't hate it, but like a ton of people love that game and that art style, and they're just like to them,
Mm-hmm.
it's something brand new. It's like maybe a cell phone game because maybe they seen that game in a cell phone game when they played it when they were younger or whatever, and they're like, wow, like this cell phone looking graphics game is playing like a Final Fantasy game, but like really good storytelling and everything of that nature. So yeah, I'm with you. Like I've been in this, and I'm on the other side of the spectrum, right? Like now we're starting to get a whole bunch of action games to where like they
Mm-hmm.
were sprinkled. Like we'll get a good one every 5 or 6 years, right?
Dude,
Like
Final Fantasy finally made their action game.
yeah,
Like
exactly.
they've wanted to do this for 15 years and they did it. They
And they
finally
finally
did it.
did it, and people liked it, and like we see other styles of games like coming out like that
Mhm.
now. They're like, oh, we're gonna make our own version of action game or whatever the case may be, and I love it. I love that we're getting this like for people to say this is the worst era of gaming. I think like company wise and like corporate wise, yes. Business wise, this is probably the worst I've seen gaming because
Mhm.
like I feel like the
Yeah.
developers have no control of what they're doing and everything of that nature. But like for video games, when we actually do get great games, like we're getting great games.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
and yeah, like I'm with you, man. Like on both sides of the spectrum. Like I'm, I can't wait to see what more action games are coming out. Even the indie action games that are coming out. Like I'm on
Mhm.
Twitter every day because I follow like these indie people that put indie games out or they projects that are ongoing, and I can't wait for like 3 or 4 years when all these indie games that people are making, like high quality indie games that people are making,
Oh yeah.
action
Yeah.
games, they're just looking so, and they're inspired by like the near automatas they played 5 years ago, or
Mhm.
the Kingdom Hearts they played a couple years ago, or the Devil May Cry 4s or whatever. Like these are young kids inspired by those games that they played. And because they played a remaster, like one guy, he's 23 or something like that. And he said, I never would have touched Devil May Cry if I didn't play the remaster, the one
Mhm.
through three
Mhm.
remaster. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So these games are needed, and they're needed for preservation and everything of that nature. And they help build other franchises in the future. And I'm
Mhm.
glad like you're getting your tactics like games right now, So
Mhm.
and I'm experiencing now because I never really was a tactics game outside of like I played Final
Fire
Fantasy
Emblem.
Tactics and Fire Emblem and the Saiga,
Mhm.
but that was about it, And those are like to me like cookie cutter or not
And
cookie cutter, but like
there's so much out there, dude.
yeah,
Like if you
exactly,
like you remember a few years ago, I think this was like the first year we did the podcast was Fell Seal Arbiter's Mark.
yeah,
That
yep,
was it. That's an indie game made by two people, and it's one of the best tactics games I've ever played. It's like so it's out there, and that's like tactics actually has been big in the indie space for a while, actually. But AAA is starting to, or not AAA, but the bigger companies, bigger publishers are starting to recognize that there's a place here. And I do think Nintendo and Fire Emblem paved the way for companies to try it again with this genre, because Fire Emblem has just started to take off, in a big way. And then, for good reason, dude. Like, Engage, man, I'm looking back at that game. I still like the story, notwithstanding, wasn't amazing or anything like that. It's serviceable, but I don't even like care. The gameplay in Engage is super good,
super
dude.
Good, yeah.
It's so good. It's the best Fire Emblem's been in a long time, actually, from that perspective for me. I love Three Houses, but I think Engage, like, from a gameplay standpoint, is a better game than Three Houses. And yeah, I've been thinking about it recently, and I'm kind of like, I almost want to play it again on a higher difficulty or something, and like do like a challenge run of some sort. But it was that good, and I haven't thought about doing that with Fire Emblem in fucking forever. I haven't done that since like Radiant Dawn 15 years ago. So it's like, it's interesting. Like, the genre in general, I feel like it's thriving right now. Like you said, triangle strategy, fucking awesome game, dude. And Square made that game, so that's why I just want to see them. I appreciate the new IP with things like triangle strategy and stuff, but like, they have existing IP that I think they should be exploring as well, with Front Mission and Tactics Ogre and Final Fantasy Tactics. Like, fucking make a new one. Like, and don't do what you did with the Game Boy Advance Final Fantasy Tactics games. Like, make a real Final Fantasy Tactics, not some gimmicky bullshit. Like, make a proper, not necessarily a sequel, but something in the vein of the original, and just do it. A lot of those guys are still around. Like, the developers for those games, the people who worked on Tactics Ogre Reborn, they fucking made Final Fantasy Tactics. Like, a lot of those guys are still at Square. Like, so I don't know what the hell they're doing. It drives me nuts a little bit, that they just let these guys wallow in whatever bullshit projects they're working on, because these are like extreme talents that have made classics in this industry. So I don't know. Maybe we'll see it. I don't, like, whenever someday I'm hoping to see that mech come out and they just say the word Vanzer and I lose my fucking mind on like a showcase or something, because yeah, dude, like, I don't know, they have great IP. So okay, we got like severely sidetracked.
Yep.
Star Ocean: The Divine Force, interesting game. It is actually super cheap if you want to play it. I saw it on Amazon. It's like $20, so you can probably get it for like nothing if you really want to dig. So yeah, it's out there for sure. But all right, Montrell, let's move on to the news. 2 hours and 11 minutes in to the fucking show. Fortunately, to be honest, we don't have a ton of news to really talk about this week, so it's good that we went game heavy in terms of our discussion. So let's start with Jim Ryan. So we got a couple stories from him. So this is kind of a big one. Bloomberg reported this first, but Sony soon released a statement afterwards confirming this news, that Jim Ryan is going to be stepping down as CEO of PlayStation in March of 2024. So this is a big deal. He's been CEO since 2019, and Hiroki Totoki is going to be taking over as CEO in March of 2024, which, by the way, he has a great name. And yeah, there's not a ton otherwise to say. This was confirmed. He did cite that he's found it difficult to reconcile living in Europe and working in North America, which, I could totally understand that. This seems like a personal decision to me. It doesn't seem like something where he's getting forced out or anything like that. In all realistic metrics, like, PlayStation is thriving right now within the industry, and there's no reason to believe that the company is pushing him out or anything like that. So what do you think of this, Montreal? Do you think this is this going to impact PlayStation in a big deal? Do you think we might see a change in direction from them?
Yeah, I can see. I don't think it's gonna be like super big, but it happened when. And I don't want people to take this as like racism or whatever, but it happened when Jim Ryan took over and like the Western side of PlayStation happened. They kind of moved everything towards the Western side of gaming, and now I think now that the Japanese I forgot his name already,
Hiroki Totoki.
Hiroki
Remember,
Totoki.
it rhymes.
Yeah.
Should be easy to remember.
Now that he's taken over, I think it's going to go back towards the Japanese market a little bit more. They may still try to you know, keep everything there or keep where things where it's at for a while, but I think it's going to go more towards geared towards the Japanese market, which I think is, it's cool. I think it's needed. I don't think they're going to get rid of like key studios. Like I don't think anywhere Naughty Dog's going anywhere. I don't think
Yeah, right.
Insomniac is going anywhere or anything like that. But I think they will invest more money, I would say, or allocate more money to even it out into like Japanese studios and stuff like that to make sure that they get their just desserts too, as far as the Japanese and the Eastern market as well. Because I feel like over the last 10 years, me personally, I feel like it's been neglected as far as like first party PlayStation games,
Yeah.
So,
well, they shut down Studio Japan, dude, a few years ago, and that was literally one of the most important studios for PlayStation's entire history, and they just shuttered it, So, I think Japan is actually a really important market for Sony, and I don't think they've necessarily forgotten that because they do purchase a lot of third party exclusives in Japan out of Japanese studios, especially Square Enix. But I do think having a Japanese leader again could be good for the company overall in their direction. I don't think it's going to change anything materially in terms of how many live service games we're going to get or anything like that. I don't think this guy's going to come in and like cancel all those and be the savior everybody's looking for there. I sincerely would doubt that, especially. But we could see a change in direction though in terms of strategy more long term. Like the way these things tend to operate within the games industry, the development times are so long that you're not going to see the effect of change probably for several years. Like we probably won't see this guy's footprint start to take hold until later in this generation, like 2026, 2027.
yeah.
Because a lot of the stuff that the teams are working on now will all have been greenlit by Jim Ryan, so it's like those games need to come out before this new guy comes in and kind of makes his footprint. So I wouldn't expect big changes necessarily, but I will say Jim's interesting. I think earlier on in the lifespan of PS5, we were a little bit more negative with Sony. And I will say more recently in the last year or so, I definitely feel a little bit more positive with them in general. As much as I'm not a huge fan of the live service thing, it does make sense. And it's not like they're abandoning their other their other verticals with the games they're making in their first party. So I think they've had the right approach for most of the stuff they've been doing. I will say even the subscription thing, as much as we don't think it's a direct competitor to Game Pass, I mean we have seen the appeal to it though. You've been signed up to it before, and you have utilized it to play games, so there is some appeal there clearly, and I think their approach is working in the moment, and we'll see if that can continue certainly. But I don't think his tenure is going to be looked back at necessarily as like a negative time for PlayStation though. So
yeah, no, he definitely led PlayStation through. It was already up and he kept it up, and that's probably the best thing you could do as a CEO,
Yeah, exactly. Right. There was no there was no moment where they downticked in the last 5 years. Like it's just they've just continued to either ascend or kind of stay around where they were. So so yeah, I think it's a short tenure, but CEOs a lot of the time, I mean, there's an ebb and flow to this. They don't always stick around for a super long time. So but yeah, we'll see what Hiroki Totoki will bring to the table. And so our next story is also Jim Ryan focused. He did an interview with Famitsu, and he was talking about third-person story-driven games, and he said that they will always be part of their their plan going forward. They're not going to abandon these games for live service necessarily. So some I guess relief to those who are maybe concerned that Sony would be abandoning the style of game. I will say for myself, it is a little disappointing for him to specifically point out third person story driven games, because I would really like to see Sony make some other types of games. But that doesn't seem to be on their radar necessarily as much. They're very focused on very large AAA cinematic games right now, and that's kind of their focus. They don't want to make small games. They don't want to make games like Penitent, and even like Hi-Fi Rush. They don't want to make those kind of games right now. So, which is a little disappointing.
Which I think will benefit them, but I think they're relying on like the indie. They have so many third party and smaller studios that just want to be on their ecosystem that they don't really need to focus on that. If that makes any sense. Whereas Xbox, they need that shit.
Yeah. Yeah, fair for sure. But yeah, and I mean, it's good to hear him confirm this. Obviously, with him stepping down, this could change, but I wouldn't think so. This is something that a CEO is not necessarily going to have full control over, anyways. They're a publicly traded company with a board, so those kind of decisions will ultimately be approved or not by that board. So yeah, we'll see. All right, Montrell, let's move on. Your favorite developer in the world, Hideki Kamiya, announced that he is stepping down from his position at Platinum, and he's leaving the company. It sounds like he doesn't plan on leaving game development necessarily, but he felt like it was time for him to move on from Platinum, and he's going to be leaving next month. And he is the current vice president, and he was the co-founder of the company. So this is kind of a big deal for Platinum. I mean, what do you think it means for them as a developer?
So I'm sorry. Side note, this is the weirdest shit. I don't talk about this. I don't mention this at all. I have my wedding ring or whatever. And I be trying to like roll it on my fingers. You know how like the little villains they roll
I do that. I do that all the time.
I try to do that all the time, like roll it down while I was flipping. And there's a video on YouTube on how to do that. I never mentioned this shit. How the fuck do they know?
Isn't that creepy, dude? Isn't that creepy? I've had that shit happen too, man, where you've literally never uttered a word about it in your fucking life, and you see a video for it, on your feed or an ad or something for some shit like that. That is creepy. Are they reading your mind through your phone? Like,
they have to be using the camera. That's the only thing.
The camera flashed over you playing with it or something.
Man.
That is bullshit. Don't come out here, Apple and Google, and come on and say that you're not fucking spying on it. Fuck you.
They
guys.
have
You're
to be, man.
So full.
I'm sorry, y'all. I know that was like so random, but like that really creeped me out because I was just like, why is this on my newsfeed? I never mentioned that at all. I never said it out loud to myself or anything. Because I've been practicing it, and that's just that. And I never Google searched it at all, so I don't know. Anyway, yeah, Platinum Games, Hideki Kamiya. So I think this is a good move with Platinum. I think it's a good move for him. This is one of the rare times where I'm actually like, I don't want to say applauding him leaving. It's one of the times where I'm like, yeah, it's time for you to leave. I think from what I've been reading and like rumors and everything like that, he was one of like the vocals, one of the head honchos behind, trying to make some of these like live service games and everything of that nature. And I know he was like this the creative force behind like Bayonetta and like Astral Chain, which I really loved or whatever. But I feel like he also was trying to push the company to make other games like obviously Babylon's Fall, or is that what's called Babylon's Fall?
Yes.
And everything of that nature. I also think he has really poor management skills. And that's not to knock him. Everybody doesn't have great management skills. And the reason I say this is because or maybe the company itself has a culture of that, and he's the vice president. He was the vice president, and it kind of like trickled down from him. And the reason I say that is because we're looking at Babylon's Fall and how that turned out. And then we look at another game, Scalebound, and how that turned out. And I think there are some other canceled games that they made, and we see how those games turned out. And then we also have like Star Fox Zero, and a lot of people forgot they made that game, and I think they have ambitious stuff, but they don't know how to capitalize on that ambition. And like for instance, like oh my god, Vanquish. We never revisited Vanquish at all. Why? We never revisited Metal Gear Revengeance. Why? We went back to Bayonetta, but like it's locked into like that to me is not a system seller, but it's a really good multi-plat game. Why is it still locked on Nintendo? You know, and I mean, Wonderful 101 was a cool game, but they just made so many weird, obscure games, which I love, but it never went anywhere. You know what I'm saying? Like people want Platinum. They never just. When was the last time Platinum had a really, really good AAA, game? I still don't consider Bayonetta a AAA game. I consider it a double A game. I don't consider Metal Gear Revenge as a AAA game. I consider it a double A game. Vanquish the same way. They have really good double A games, but they never had that good Sony exclusive or Microsoft exclusive third party game. And it sucks because I feel like they need it. I feel like they can do it, and if they did do it, they get the funding for it. It would be great. I was really hard on Hideki. I just think he's. I'm trying to say this without being like rude. I think he's a phenomenal game designer. Like one of the best out there. His vision, you can see it throughout every game. I think though, he thinks he's bigger than what he is. Yes,
I mean, do you think he's kind of peaked? Like he just needs a fresh start.
Yes and no. I do think I don't think he's peaked, but I do think he needs a fresh start.
Like he's like he might be stuck in a box right now, and he kind of needs to go redefine what kind of games he wants to make. Because you're talking about like what they've been doing, right? Like Bayonetta, and that is kind of what he's known for. But they keep making those, and then
well, that's the problem. They haven't made too many of those outside of Bayonetta, Metal Gear Revengeance, and Vanquish. Like Vanquish pushed the third person shooter when that was like a prevalent thing at the time. Like it really pushed that genre into another direction.
Like he was very innovative in these spaces.
But
right?
even he didn't make that game. It was another guy who made this Resident Evil 4. That guy made that game. You know what I'm saying? So like he doesn't play to his strengths. I will say that. He always and there's nothing wrong with experimentation, and there's nothing wrong with like I want to do something different or whatever the case may be. Because like I love Astral Chain. I think it's a really good game. But it's once again you went for this exclusive deal with Nintendo, and I feel like Astral Chain is one of those games that suffered tremendously from being on the Switch. And Bayonetta is one of those games as well. And he tries to like, I think he goes for the money, and then he tries to put his creative force behind the money. So I'm pretty sure he got some kind of exclusive deal with Astral Chain and Bayonetta. But it's like, was that the best move for the company? You see what I'm saying? Like, am I trying to
clearly not? I mean, they've been in a position for a while now.
Yeah, and then like to have your president come out and say like, please buy us. We want to be bought too, and it's like nobody bought y'all. Like that's weird to me because they have. It's almost like a Final Fantasy 16 situation. They have really great highs, but their lows are like really low. And you don't
think about Platinum though, dude. I think their peak was like 10 years ago. You're talking about Vanquish, which that's like probably closer to 15 years ago.
Yeah.
Metal Gear Rising Revengeance, like that's like 10 years ago. The original Bayonetta, almost 10 to 15 years ago. Bayonetta 2 was somewhere around 10, close to 10 years ago. Actually, I think it was 10 years ago. like these are some of their biggest games in their catalog, and they don't make they haven't made games that good in a while. Like Astral Chain maybe is it, but like you said, nobody knows that. Like nobody
Oh, I
played it.
forgot they did do Near Automata. They did the combat for Near Automata.
They did do Near Automata, but that was led by Square
Exactly.
specifically. You
Yep.
know, like it was them making the game, but the leadership was on Square's side. Yoko Taro works for Square. So that
And that's how I feel about Revengeance. Like that
yeah.
was Kojima. Like when they're given a project, they can execute. And I think
Yes.
they're better as a pseudo support team than an actual like company by themselves. I feel like they need to be under somebody, like how Monolith Soft is under Nintendo, but like Monolith Soft knows how to create a game. I mean, like they know how to lead their own games, right? But
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
they need structure. That's what I'm looking. That's what I mean. They need structure. Like if you give them a concept, they can execute the concept flawlessly.
Yeah.
But if you leave them to their own devices, all right, come up with your own concept. Then they make games like Wonderful 101, which I know a lot of people are going to give me shit for that because they love that game, but I didn't like it. And they make games like that, or they make games like Bayonetta Origins. And it's like, what are we doing? Like,
Yeah.
like you are
Yeah.
you are a quality studio and you're making Bayonetta Origins. What is going on?
Or Babylon's Fall.
Or Babylon's Fall. You're the company behind fucking Near Automata, and you're making Estrada
Yep.
Resta. I'm sorry, Resta, and it's or Cresta rather, Soul Cresta, and like what is that? You know what I'm saying? Like your if I go and look at their catalog, half these games I've never even heard of. You see what I'm saying? Like
Yeah.
you have other games like Anarchy Reigns under your belt and everything of that nature. Why didn't you bring that back? And it's like the leadership is questionable. You know what I'm saying? And I'm and that's where I'm getting at with Hideki, right? I don't think he's a really good. He has really grandiose ideas, but he needs structure. And when you try to leave him to his own devices, he doesn't work well with freedom. Like that sounds so terrible the way I
Well,
just said it.
yeah, and yeah, I mean, think about this too recently, right? Like Scalebound that got canceled.
Yeah.
They were the original studio working on Grand Blue Fantasy Relink, and Cygames took them off of it 3 or 4 years ago. Which I personally thought the original version of like look at that game looked a lot better than what we're getting now, but
Yeah, 100%. Yeah.
but that doesn't matter. The studio that they were contracted with to make the game did not like their output for one reason or another. So they got taken off of it. And if you look at the period of time around 2019, I mean, dude, like after Near Automata, they didn't release a game for 2 years until Astral Chain. And then like outside of Astral Chain from 2017 to 2021, they didn't release a game besides that. The Wonderful 101 remastered, I don't count that really because they fucking kickstarted that, you know? And then even in 2021, they released some game called World of Demons, which is an iOS game of some sort. I don't even know what that is. So then you got Soul Cresta, Babylon's Fall, and Bayonetta 3 last year. There was like a 5-year gap basically where they made one
Oh,
game,
yeah,
you
and
know?
then they had this weird period where they were doing stuff for Activision. So they did Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, which was I actually liked that game a lot. I thought the combat was really cool in Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles because it had that platinum flair to it, and I always wanted that from a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles game. And then they made Legend of Korra. They made that game. It didn't get a lot of support. You can tell like the money was really limited, but they did make it, and I actually liked it. They did Transformers Devastation, which is another game that I liked a lot because the combat was like really good. It was like it was doing something different with an IP that we all know of, right? And that's why I think they're really good at excelling. Like they can take an IP and then put their platinum spin on it and it's just really good. Like imagine if Platinum Games made a fucking Apex game with like Ash or something like that, right?
Mm-hmm.
Imagine if they made some type of fucking, I even say some type of fucking Mario game or something like that. Like it'll be like an action Mario game or something like that, or whatever the case, or a Zelda game or whatever. Like they take original ideas and then just like make them like mwah. Like because Ryzen wasn't right. Metal Gear Revengeance is probably one of their greatest examples of this, right? Only they could have done that, where they already had the Fox engine was already being utilized and everything, and Konami already had the game made out, but they couldn't figure out what to do with the game. They didn't know how to make the game. And Platinum was like, all right, I like the concept of me cutting stuff and going in slow motion and cutting stuff into little bits. We're going to take that and then we're going to put our flair on it and we're going to make your action game. And they did it and it worked. I mean, it didn't work at the time because I feel like it came out during like the whole heavy, where like first person shooters like super fucking heavy. But like
it was the very end of the PS3 360 generation.
Yeah, exactly. And now that game is like one of the most memed games online because people actually play it and they're like, holy fuck, this game's like actually really fucking good. It is like, yeah, the game's good. And I feel like if a lot of people went back and played these games like Transform Devastation, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Manhattan Mayhem, or even the Legend of Korra game, like people will actually love these games and like, yo, where the fuck were these games at? Like, how come I never played these games? And that's because they just never advertise them. Like they just don't have the backing, or if they do, it's just weird. They don't really capitalize on it. Like for Near Automata to be the first, some people's first interactions with Platinum Games is a disservice to what this company can do, and Hideki himself, what they can do. And that's what I mean, where I'm like, maybe they need someone else to like actually showcase their vision, actually showcase their strengths, because they were just running off like vibes. Like that's the that's the mentality that I get from him. He just runs off vibes, and I feel like also like his ego. This is how I feel about him, and this is gonna, and people can take this whatever way you feel like. And when I say this person's name, people either love him and think he's a fucking genius, or they fucking hate him and they think he's just trash. Hideki Kamiya is the Kanye West of video games. He made Devil May Cry. He introduced that idea. He was behind Clover Studios. He made Beautiful Joe. He made Okami. Then he went off.
Wow.
And then he went off to make Bayonetta after they left.
Yeah.
Then his team, it wasn't him, but the guy who made Resident Evil 4 and Evil Dead Within, or not Evil Dead Within, but Evil Within, also made Vanquish, I believe. So you have this guy who's also like the face of Platinum, and I don't want to say he's living in the past because he's trying to be into the future, right? But his ideas, it's hard for him to get them on paper, and I equivalent that to like Kanye West, where Kanye West at the time he had to fight to get to the producing and rapping spot or whatever, right? And now that he was there, at his peak, he was just great, which like one of his albums, My Beautiful Twisted Dark Fantasy, is for me, that's like peak Kanye West. And then after that, it's just been like teetering down and teetering down, teetering down. But people who were introduced to him on Yeezus, which to me is his worst album, they're like, oh, he changed the landscape of music with this sound. And it's like, that's ass to me, bro. But like, I feel like that's the Near Automata, or that's the Bayonetta. Like for Hideki, like that was on his downstream when Bayonetta was introduced. I don't think Bayonetta is better than Devil May Cry. It kind of carries the genre forward and it's more fluid. But like I think like peak of Platinum Games is either Near Automata, who you might ask, or Metal Gear Revengeance. And I don't think he was behind those games.
Yeah. Yeah, I would say, like, based on what we were saying before he like created Platinum or founded Platinum, those games are better than anything he's ever made at Platinum, probably.
Yeah.
And that's not great because that was 15 years ago, you know? So, or even 20 in some cases, some of those cases. And I mean, dude, Beautiful Joe is an amazing fucking game from the PlayStation 2. And as much as I love Nier Automata, like, again, was he even like, how involved was he in Nier Automata? You know, it's like, that was Square's game. They just needed a team to make it, and they went to Platinum for that. Like, he probably wasn't very involved in that project, I would assume, at a direct level of creation. So yeah, I mean, it's Bayonetta, Vanquish, Metal Gear Rising, Revengeance. Those are probably the ones that they're most known for as a studio, and I mean, all of those were 10 years ago or 15 years ago. You know,
Yeah.
so in the last 10 years specifically, or say, let's say, basically since 2013, the biggest games they've made are Metal Gear Rising, Revengeance in 2013, Bayonetta 2 in 2014, Nier Automata in 2017, Astral Chain maybe in 2019. I'd argue though that I'd consider that a big one. You know, it might be a good one, but it's not one that many people have really played. And then what, Bayonetta 3 last year? That's 5 games in 10 years. You know, and 2 of those games came out within the first year of the decade I just mentioned. So, it's like, their output hasn't been great. You know, they've got, I don't know. So it makes sense for him to step down. I think
Yeah. He
we've been
wasn't
talking
a,
about Platinum for a couple years, man, that they've been struggling,
yeah.
and I I think this is why this makes sense. It's like he might recognize that it's time for someone else to come in and try to shepherd the studio in a different direction. It's clearly not working with him right now, you know. So
Yeah, I agree. I think I'm glad he realized it. And you know what? To his credit, he does take responsibility for a lot of stuff.
yeah,
Um, Despite how you made his, his social media presence or whatever, and even Platinum themselves, they take a lot of responsibility for the way games are released, or whatever the case may be. Like right now, people are upset about Babylon's Fall, and they're blaming Square, and Platinum was like, actually, guys, that was our fault. Like that was our fault. And I love that they're doing that. Like I love that they take responsibility, and he does take responsibility for his actions. But it's just like, yeah, man, like maybe like they just need guidance. I feel like, and that's why they
yeah,
do so well with other IPs but when it comes to making their own IP, it's super hit or miss, like super hit or miss. And you can tell that I don't think they were ready. I don't think he was ready for the um yeah, he wasn't involved in. I'm looking at like the full credit list of like Nier Automata and Metal Gear Revengeance. He wasn't involved in those games at all. So
yeah,
yeah, so it's just like, yeah, I think they need way better structure. And hopefully, like this will shake things up. They get somebody in there who can kind of carry on the legacy that he left in the style that he left, but also move forward and say, okay, this is what we need to do now. If we want to make our own IPs, let's follow the IP to to our strengths and everything of that nature. So yeah, I mean, I wish him the best, but I think this is a great learning experience for him, and it also shows that like no matter the age, you're also still not at your peak. You still have a lot of stuff
yeah,
to learn.
yeah. Yep, fair enough. All right, well, let's move on to our final story. Epic Games today, in fact, announced that they're laying off 830 employees, about 16% of their total staff. Um, they are also divesting from the online music platform Bandcamp, which they acquired last year, and they're going to be spinning off a company called Super Awesome, which they acquired in 2020. It's a platform for developers to include kids safety tools in their products. And this affected a lot of their studios. I think Psyonix was hit.
Yeah.
Mediatonic, which is the team that makes Fall Guys, was actually hit fairly heavily, apparently, according to Jason Schreier. But they're not like, they didn't shutter the studios or anything like that. But and this was this layoff specifically was Tim Sweeney mentioned that as their growth vectors have kind of changed in the last couple of years, and they've been doing more creation tools type product selling on Fortnite rather than just through skins. He felt like they just did not have the revenue stream to maintain the size of workforce that they
Mm-hmm.
have in the company, and needed to make this move. So I mean, what do you think, Montrell? Do you think this is there trouble here for Epic, or do you think they've grown too much too quickly off of Fortnite and haven't managed themselves well necessarily, or what do you think?
Side note, I got a lot to say about this, but I know both me and you are in football, and I know you're gonna watch the football game. You're gonna
Mm.
be severely surprised tonight. But anyway,
Oh boy, no, are the Lions winning? Hold on, let's go look. Let's go. Montrell's got to get this in here. Yeah, 27-11. I mean, it's not a surprise. Like, it's not that big of a surprise, dude. Like
I
the
mean, I guess
fucking
Green Bay doesn't really have like super
they
tools.
don't have Aaron Rodgers anymore. I mean, the Lions are
Yeah.
good right now. I never said they weren't. I don't, why
Okay.
are you sticking this to me? I'm not a hater.
I didn't say you were. I just say you're gonna be surprised. I just
Okay. No, I'm not that surprised. The Lions are good right now. Dan Campbell's cool. He's a good coach.
Yeah, he's doing a really good job.
Jared Goff's fucking crazy right now, bro. Like he's
I know.
he's on a fucking tear the last couple of years. Like
Know,
that man is on a mission, I think, to prove everybody wrong.
Yeah, he is, man. And we're gonna be right behind him. We were right behind him. We were right behind Matthew Stafford all the way till he left. No, even after he left, Lions fans were like cheering when Matthew Stafford got his ring.
Yeah.
So
No, and I think Goff has proven that he's a good quarterback.
yeah.
It's just he has very specific limitations that if they are exploited, he will fail. He does not handle. He needs to be well protected. But if he is, bro, he is a sharpshooter. Like he's super good. He's extremely accurate. He's one of the most accurate QBs I think I've ever seen, actually, which is crazy. But so yeah, I'm not. The score's not that surprising. Also, don't count your chickens before they hatch. I mean, it's the middle of the third quarter.
Middle of the third quarter. Yeah, they can easily come back. Yeah,
they can come back. They just scored a touchdown and a 2-point conversion. So
Yeah.
Anyways, Epic Games.
Epic Games. So I think this is all like we've been seeing this across the industry, and we kind of called it. Me and you during the pandemic, that all this expansion that a lot of companies were doing, not just like gaming companies, that a lot of companies were doing was very dangerous, very dangerous. And what comes up must come down. And now we're seeing, now we're on the down portion of it. So as crazy as big as Epic is, and how as big as Fortnite is making a ton of money and Unreal making a ton of money for them, even they are, even they are susceptible to like the downturn of like the economy. And I'm not surprised. A lot of people were surprised, but I'm not surprised. All these companies did a ton of like growth and everything of that nature, and a lot of collaborations and consolidations or buying companies and everything like that. And I knew it was just a matter of time before, all this comes like crashing down. And unfortunately, like this happened. And I'm actually scared for the future for like Xbox and all the companies they're buying, So even though Microsoft's nowhere close to losing money, if they wanted to trim some fat, Xbox is definitely the first thing to go. Like that's definitely a lot of the companies they have are the first companies to go and everything of that nature. So I think this is just a sign of the times as far as like the economy and the video game economy as well. Like it's just time to downsize all this super exponential growth and everything like that. It was cool for the first 2 years of COVID, but now we're in part 3, and this is the Return of the Jedi. This is when shit starts winding down, bro. Like this is it. So that's how I feel about it, at least.
No, and I mean, I think I agree, right? When you have explosive success the way Epic Games did, there's two things that happen, right? You sit on the money, which most companies aren't going to do, or you invest in some way, and you usually invest in yourself, whether that's hiring or acquiring other companies to kind of bring into the fold to make your kind of footprint bigger. And Epic did both of those things. And this is the thing with video games, man. It's a weird industry because it's really hard to project, and it's really hard to project continued success. Like, I mean, we got to think about this. Fortnite, the battle royale's been around for what, 5 years now, 6 years? Was it 2017 or 2018 that it came out?
2018. I want to say 20. I want to say 2017 to be honest with you, but I think it's 2018.
I think it was. I want to say it was 2018, but either way, I mean that's a long time for a live service game, dude. Like we saw the rise and fall of PUBG within half of that time frame, and we've also seen Apex kind of ebb and flow and kind of fall off in less than that time frame as well. And as popular and well made and well managed as Fortnite has been, it's not going to last forever, dude. Like, people are going to move on. There are going to be other games that come out that kind of start taking mind share away from it. And that is an inevitability within the video game industry. And generally speaking, there's very, very few exceptions to that. And I never felt like Fortnite was strong enough of a game to be like a League of Legends, or even like a Counter-Strike type thing, I just never felt like it was like, it is a good game, it's solid, but I don't know, it doesn't have that same appeal, I guess, as those other games. Like, League is a thing, it's a certain type of thing, and I think it has created an ecosystem for itself that I don't think Fortnite ever had, and it has really even gotten close to having necessarily. It's popular with younger people, certainly, for sure, but those people are going to grow up, whereas League seems to have a much larger spread of a fan base. Um, so
I actually disagree. I think Fortnite is up there with League, as far as stability is that's even the word.
staying
Uh,
power.
staying power. uh,
Yeah.
I think it is up there with League. Actually, I think this is the newer generation's League of Legends.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas League and Dota have proven to the test of time. I think Fortnite is going to be one of those games that prove to the test of time, as well.
I guess what I'm saying, I'm not. I don't want to. I don't want to like blow this out of proportion. I don't think Fortnite's gonna like shut down in a couple years. That's not what I'm saying. I think what I'm saying is that Epic misevaluated how big they could be with this game's success level. Whereas Riot, I think, has like projected that better for themselves.
Mm,
I don't think they've gone through this kind of thing before. Maybe they have. I don't know. Like, I haven't followed Riot that closely until more recent years, but um, you know, they seem to be a much they've been a stable company the entire time, and I don't think Riot didn't ever expand outside of their means, I guess, too quickly, you know. Until more recently, they didn't really make anything other than League of Legends. They just started recently doing that the last like 3 years.
yeah.
Whereas Epic did it immediately upon their success with Fortnite, which that's super risky to do in the video game industry. So that's why this contraction isn't a surprise, I guess, to me in that regard.
Yeah, I don't know. Epic is weird because obviously they're behind the Unreal Engine and everything of that nature.
Yeah.
And I mean, Fortnite funded a lot of money for Unreal Engine 5, in my opinion. That's why it's the way it is. In my opinion, the money that went behind it in the research and development is
Mm-hmm.
why that engine is the way it is now. Um, but I mean, like what else has Epic made besides Fortnite?
I mean, they made the Gears games back in the day. Gears of
Was
War.
that Epic Games?
Yeah,
Okay.
pretty sure it was. I mean, that was a long time ago now. They haven't been involved in that franchise in a while, but
Yeah.
um, I mean, yeah, they're not a I don't know. They haven't been a big maker of games. I think Unreal was kind of their focus for a long time. Did they make Unreal Tournament though?
They did make Unreal Tournament.
Yeah, so back when that was a huge thing, that was probably their more of their driver. But I'm looking at game lists for them that they've made in recent years. Like, yeah, I mean the last thing they released was something called Battle Breakers. I don't even know what that is, and that was in 2019, and it's mostly just been Fortnite. So they haven't been making games in recent years.
Oh, I think Battle Breakers was that one game that got canceled. I think.
But yeah, they made Gears of War 1, 2, 3, and Gears of War Judgment. They made the Infinity Blade games, Bulletstorm, Shadow Complex a long time ago. I mean, goddamn. I mean, we're talking 14 years ago, some of these games. So I think this is maybe part of their problem is they put all their eggs in the Fortnite basket, and that is not an infinite well for them necessarily. Because even like there's an email that leaked from Sweeney to the company, and he said, "quote While Fortnite is starting to grow again, the growth is driven primarily by creator content with significant revenue sharing." And this is a lower margin business than we had when Fortnite Battle Royale took off. So it's kind of an indicator to me that their primary business model of selling skins is just not continuing to sell crazy amounts of them and generate tons of revenue the way it used to when it first was popular.
Yeah, that's understandable. I mean, they have been doing a lot of revenue sharing and everything of that nature. And I don't know how much they're getting from the Epic's Game Store. All I know is a lot of people a lot of PC gamers hate the Epic's Game Store. They have a very strong affinity towards Steam.
Yeah, and that didn't take off, right? I mean, remember when we started this podcast, that was kind of our biggest story that we were following, that like continuous story of them like buying exclusivity on PC.
Yeah.
And I mean, that dude, we're talking 4 or 5 years ago now, and that didn't go anywhere. Like the Epic Game Store is not a thing. Nobody cares.
Really?
Like I mean, like who do you know from anybody you talk to that buys their games on Epic Game Store versus Steam?
I mean, it's always a companion. I think DJ might buy some stuff, but he has Steam too. So I think he's primarily on Steam.
Yeah, but he develops on Unreal Engine, so he's like got it for that specific reason.
Probably.
Like if he didn't have that, would he even have that client on his computer? Like realistically, think about it.
Probably not. Nah.
Yeah. And that's kind of my point. And your point about it being a companion is a good point. You have it if you play Fortnite. You have it if maybe you develop on Unreal Engine. Otherwise, like you're probably not. Who's downloading it? Steam's got it, bro. Like, why would I would go to GOG before I went to the Epic Game Store. Like absolutely.
I would argue GOG is a staple now. Like that's not.
It is. Anywhere. It definitely is. It's just it's a much lesser staple, but you don't want to be there if you're Epic. Like
yeah,
like CD Projekt is a nobody in comparison to Epic. No offense, like.
No, you're right.
I mean, maybe not a nobody. That might be strong language.
Yes, that is strong language. But
they're a lesser company within the industry in terms of that, like how well known they are, I guess is what I'll say.
Yeah, and which is why to me they keep changing Fortnite. Excuse me. They keep trying to keep it fresh or whatever the case may be. And I think it's almost like it's the staple battle royale. It's never going anywhere. It's going to be a fallback game for everybody to come back to, or every once in a while. You know what it's going to remind me of? I don't know if you'd be on YouTube. I mean, yeah, of course you'd be on YouTube, but like, I don't know if since you don't really follow League like that. I didn't play like League of Legends when it first came out, right? So like people like the Act Man and other YouTubers and stuff like that, they're like, man, I remember playing League when it first came out, and it was like a great party game. And I queue up with 5 of my friends, and we'll just have a blast and everything like that. And even like you'll be talking like that with like Dota and old League of Legends. Like you'll talk like that, like, man, I just remember I used to queue up and we'll just play to our heart's content and stuff like that. And I feel like 10 years from now, or maybe another 5 years because it's already been out for 7 years. 6 or 7 years rather. I feel like another 3 years we're gonna be getting videos saying like, man, I remember when Fortnite was like this, and I remember playing Fortnite in high school, and now I'm 24. Now I played it when I was 14, and now I'm
Mm-hmm.
24, and I
Yeah.
just don't see it anymore. And this, not, and the third, and it's gonna have a slow decline, but it's not gonna go anywhere. And it's like League. They're gonna have to do something, and I feel like that's what Riot did. They felt like, all right, we're on season 13, we're on year 13 of this game, year 14 of this game, or whatever the case may be, and we need to start branching out. We have the world, we have the technology, we can rebuild it.
Yeah.
But no, we have the world, we have the lore, and we can start doing other stuff with this franchise. And now they're starting to do it because they have the money. And Arcane, in my opinion, was one of their biggest like bets because that animation had to cost a lot of fucking money.
Well, it took them like 7 years to make that fucking show.
Yeah,
Something
so
crazy like that.
that was one of their biggest bets, and it paid off like tremendously. And I mean, even when I was playing like back in 2017, 2018, we were getting surveys like, hey, would you like to see League of Legends in other games and in other franchises, or not other franchises, but under genres and stuff like that? And I was like, hell yeah. I took the survey and I was like, fuck yeah. I want League of Legends or other franchises or other genres rather. And now we're getting that. And I feel like Epic is gonna have to do the same thing. Like they're making these party games. To me, in my opinion, letting Fall Guys fall to the side, no pun intended, was one of the biggest blunders that they can do. Because that game is more fun than like anything. Like when me and you were playing that game, that shit was fucking fun.
We should play it, man.
Yeah, we should.
I honestly, genuinely kind of miss it. Like, it's a fun game. It's a special game. Like,
yeah, I think letting that game get hit with the pandemic, like I call it like the pandemic high, like because obviously like the games like Among Us and everything like that got hit with the pandemic high. But letting that one fall through the cracks is crazy to me because that game has a ton of potential. That game could have been the next Mario Party to take Mario Party out of where it needs to be.
Or fucking fucking Rocket League too. Like, what the fuck? That is such a unique concept, and it's an incredible fucking game. And where is it though? I know it's still popular, but it's like come on.
Do they own Rocket League?
They do, yeah. They own Psyonix. Yeah, dude. It's like, what the fuck, you know? Like, those are two really unique games, you know? And I think they deserve the success they got, and I agree with you. I wouldn't attribute Rocket League's decline to Epic or anything like that. I mean, they bought that studio well after that game came out, like years and years. So, but Fall Guys, yeah, no, for sure. Like Fall Guys, I'm with you on that, dude. Like, why isn't that game on Twitch more? Why aren't they pushing that shit with streamers more? It's like, it's such a fun stream game to watch too. You know, it's so goofy and just fucking stupid, you know?
Yeah, it doesn't need to be an esport. Like it can just be a fun ass game to play. And I don't know. I think also that's another thing. Like I think companies' obsessions with esports, as much as I like esports, is like really that's another side effect because we see a lot of organizations leading games and stuff like that. But that's a whole different podcast, whole different episode for that. But yeah, like I don't know, man. This was inevitable in my opinion. Like it sucks, but like I saw it coming from a mile away. I was just like, man, everybody's doing these weird acquisitions and the super growth. What happens when everyone starts going back to work? Video games are not as popular as they used to be. And we thought like work from home was going to be a thing, but now a lot of people are pushing back against that. A lot of legislation is pushing against work from home because it's like hurting the bottom line and everything like that. So, and the reason I bring that up is because work from home contributes a lot to video games. Because when you're on your break, I can play a video game. I don't have to wait till I get home. I can just turn around and play on my PlayStation or something like that, or whatever the case may be.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I feel bad. I don't know how they didn't project this. like, in my opinion. And I feel like we're gonna start seeing this a lot more in the industry. I think 2024 is gonna be the year of the de-acquisitions and studio closings.
Divesting, yeah.
Yeah,
Well, we're already
divesting.
seeing it, dude. Like, I mean, Embracer literally said, "Yeah, we're gonna be closing some fucking studios," you know, and they're the fucking poster child for acquisitions, you know,
Yep.
and Xbox. I mean, we could see the same shit there, you know. If Microsoft, the big boy part of the company, Microsoft, decides that they need to save some money next year or something, like, yeah, I could see some studio closures for sure, or divesting from certain things. Um, you know, I mean, even with Epic, right? They're literally trying to sell something they bought last year in Bandcamp. Like, what the fuck? You know, what? It's like, what is the point of that? Why did you even buy it then? You know, it's like, and then same thing with the other one. Like they acquired that one in 2020, and they wanna split it off into its own little thing. You know, it's like, so we're definitely gonna see stuff like that for sure. And I think this is where the acquisition stuff is. You know, it's definitely interesting to see, and we're not super in support of it necessarily, but this is exactly why is, you know, when you're Mediatonic or Psionics and you have this game, you know, this small game that you made that fucking blew up and you became hyper successful, and then you're valuable enough to be a purchase target for a company like Epic or fuck like Microsoft or something like that. Um, you know, and then you go for the money, and you take it. I mean, it probably doesn't matter for the studio leadership necessarily that this is happening, but it probably feels bad that the thing you made is getting cut like this and you can't do anything about it, you know?
Yeah.
And it's like you made that choice to be acquired though. If you hadn't, would you even be in this position? Like
Probably not.
Epic is the one making the cuts, not Mediatonic, you know? But they own you, so you're part of their expense report, you know? So yeah, sure. If they don't think you need as many people as you fucking have, they're gonna start cutting, and you can't do anything about it. And it's just like, I think that's the side of the acquisition stuff that is not talked about as much, is from the side of the target, or the company being acquired. Is it the right move for them to be acquired? You know, um, because yeah, it's like your future is now no longer in your control, basically.
Yeah.
Um, like, yeah, you can make great games, you can make something big and successful. It doesn't matter though. If the larger company is struggling or needs to cut bait and cut some expenses, I mean, you could be a target, you know? So
Yep.
it sucks. All right, anything else you want to say on that one?
No, that's it.
All right, fair enough. Yeah, we've been here long enough, Montrell. Is there anything else you'd like to discuss before we go today?
No, sir. What the fuck?
What did the Packers just score or something?
No, I just clicked on that link, and what the
Oh, the Star Ocean character.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know, I think if people looked at it, the character's name is Nina from Star Ocean, the Divine Force. Like, I don't think you would necessarily at first blush like be that offended by it necessarily, or like grossed out by it. But when the more you look at it, the more it's like it's so clearly a child, like a young
No,
child. Like,
it's
oh,
definitely the face. Like the 2D picture
yes,
doesn't look bad, but then I
yeah,
get to the 3D picture and it looks like a fucking child with
yeah.
titties. Like it's
Big
disgusting.
titties, big
Yeah,
titties, and she's wearing a shirt with cleavage. It's like, what? This is like a probably an 11 or 12-year old, you know? And it's like, why are we making characters that look like this? You know, I don't know. Star Ocean's always been weird. There's definitely been weird characters in the franchise, so not gonna lie about that one. So I'm not surprised by it. It's just, you know, it is notable. So
yeah.
um anyways, Moncho, let's get out of here. I don't think yeah, our Metascore game is not we haven't gotten scores for Spider-Man 2 yet, so we'll keep tabs on that for next week and beyond. And yeah, so if you guys like this episode, please like the show, subscribe to the show, and review the show on whatever feed you are listening to it on, and please share with your friends. If you'd like to interact with us on Twitter, you can do so at iTrap for the Hokage for Montrell. That is the number 4, not the word. I'm at Thunder.01, and the show is at the Player's Take. And if you'd like to send us questions, you can do so on Twitter, or you can send us an email to theplayerstake01@gmail.com. And that is going to be it for us, guys. We hope you enjoyed this episode, and we'll see you next week.